What up, IDS Mob? Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show, Saturday edition. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show where you go to learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. We do these shows every Saturday and every Tuesday at 5 p.m. I'm trying to keep this on a regular schedule of doing it on Saturdays in the afternoon, but we had some schedule stuff today, and I said, you know what? I'll do a nighttime show instead. I don't know who all's at home on Saturdays watching this, but if you're home watching it, thank you. So today, or tonight rather, I want to talk about how treating dating like sales is going to improve your success with women. I think a major problem that men have in general when it comes to dating is that we fall for the lie that we need to be as emotionally invested as women are when it comes to the dating process. And unfortunately, Guy, our emotions are going to tend to trip us up and cause us to not really go forth in dating in a way that's going to actually be satisfying to the woman overall when we try to let emotions run the show. Like guys will get hung up and be like, oh, well, I want to be able to tell her feelings and I want to be able to, do these expensive trips for her right away. And the reality is that if you don't, as a guy, know or understand how to do dating effectively, then you're going to take whatever the world is throwing at you and think, this is what I need to do as a guy. And then you're going to have a lack of success. And this is me speaking to you all as a guy who in his past very much did not have a roadmap or a plan of action on dating. And as a result of that, I was very emotional. I was writing all these kinds of poems to women and buying them whatever they wanted and all sort of stuff. And they would leave me for a guy that was doing little to none of the stuff that I was doing. But where was I tripping up? Well, I truly believe that as a guy, it's a lot easier to take your emotions out of the dating equation if you're able to parallel what dating should be like with something else in the world that you've actually seen proven examples of. And so for me, how I started to get great at dating was there was a guy named Doc Love who deceased in 2020, and he was the first guy that did a parallel of how dating had a lot of similarities to sales. And at first I was like, probably like you guys, like that seems very unromantic and not a good thing at all. But as I started to look at some of the things that he was talking about, and then just things that I developed and started to learn in my own life as a result of my successes in dating, I realized, oh my God, like sales and dating have a lot in common, especially when I started actually doing sales. Like I sold vacuum cleaners, I've sold knives, I dabbed a little bit in trying to do insurance for a bit, but that didn't go whatever. But through doing those jobs, I was able to see what Doc Love was talking about. Like, oh, this thing in the sales process is very parallel to this thing in the dating world. And it actually helped me to not be so emotional when a woman was either saying yes to a date with me or saying no, because I would just treat them like a potential sales prospect. Like, oh, I'm going to present the best product, and which is me, and see if they want it. And I had to learn over time how to do that in a way that more often than not would get me the results that I wanted. So we're going to talk about that tonight. I also, as always, this show is ultimately about you guys. And so if you have any questions you want to ask me during the course of the show, as it pertains to something happening in your dating life, as it pertains to the subject at hand, or just anything in general, you are welcome to ask me your question, and I will happily answer it during the course of the show. All right. So we're getting to all that wonderful stuff today, but this is the Introvert Dating Success Show. Let's get it.
It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
All right, guys, we're going to get into it. And as always, if you need help in your dating life, and you want somebody that's going to help you walk through that journey, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and sign up for my Introvert Dating Success Coaching Academy. It is a 12-week transformational academy that is designed to help you figure out the various things that are holding you back from dating. We talk about everything from how to do online dating, how to get rid of any kind of anxiety, how to make you a more confident person, and tons of other stuff. We show you a blueprint roadmap on how to actually get through the attraction process for women. So you'll get more dates, you'll ideally get into more relationships, and you will be a more confident man overall. Again, you can check that out at the introvertdatingsuccess.com website. All right. And so with that said, we're going to go ahead and get into, before we get into the main subject, there was a guy that had commented on a video of mine earlier today, and I liked part of what he had to say, and then he had questions about something else that I had said. And I told him on this show that I would answer his question. And so I'm a man of my word, at least I try to be, because sometimes I forget. So since I'm remembering it now, I'm going to answer his question first, and then we'll get into the main topic. All right. And again, if you guys have any questions during the course of the show, you can leave them in the comments box, and I will be happy to get to them. So with that said, so I got an interesting comment under a video that I made, and the video that I made was called "Exclusive Dating is Not a Thing." And in that video, I talk about how, people, sometimes guys will try to be like, well, we're not together, but we're exclusively dating. My thought process is that until you guys are actually boyfriend and girlfriend, everything you're doing beforehand is just dating and figuring stuff out. Whether you choose to just date that person and nobody else is up to you, but you try to preemptively tie her down by saying to her, hey, we should just be exclusively dating and not seeing other people. That can make it feel like to her, it's not her choice to do that. And we want women of their own accord to come to you at the point that they're choosing you and say those kind of things. You presenting it is rarely going to go the way you want it to go. So this guy left a comment, and the comment he said was this. He said, "That's quite decent and reasonable to me. Not sure if you just said this in a comment or the video too, though I somewhat disagree with one of your points, which is letting the woman, quote, come to you with the relationship talk." So what I always tell guys is that on average, it takes a woman 2 to 3 months to solidify her feelings as she's dating you. Once she's fully solidified her feelings, then the way you get into a relationship is you let her come to you and start saying things like, oh, so what are we? Hey, are you dating other people? Hey, so my girlfriends want to know what our titles and stuff are. I've had women literally just say to me flat out, so are we going to be in a relationship or what? And so that's what you want. That's what I stress to you guys. That's the best way for you to get into a relationship that is guaranteed more often than not to not be broken up, at least on her end of things. So anyway, so he said, I'm not necessarily saying she shouldn't, vice versa or whatever, though odds are she's getting advice to let the man bring it up first, which she likely probably prefers too. The biggest issue, I think, is when the guy just isn't the right match or plays his cards all wrong by doing things like asking to be exclusive or committed way and sometimes way too early. If he does things right and is even reasonably a good fit for her, then he may not have much to lose by asking around the 2 to 4 month mark, I guess, to be in a relationship. I think if he solely puts it on her to ask, and she's especially more so wanting the guy to ask, he risks another guy doing so before him, and that more or less making the difference, which if he's willing to take that risk, then that's on him. I think I just wouldn't make it a hard and fast rule either way, though, especially on the guy side. Well, I'll say this. So to the end sentence, I'll say that a lot of the advice that I give you guys, it's pure black and white. Like I either say, yes, do this, or I say, no, don't do that. I don't like to live in the land of maybe. I don't like to live in the land of gray areas where, but sometimes this thing, and so, what this and that, because I found that for me personally, living in the land of maybe and living in the land of gray areas and, but what if this person's different, it's X, Y, and Z, usually resulted in me not getting the results that I wanted. Like, for example, to his point, there could be a woman out there that is like, well, my girlfriend said that the guy, if he wants you, is going to come to me and ask me for the relationship. There could be a woman out there that is built that way and is waiting for the guy to come to her. And if he doesn't, then she's going to drop off the face of the planet, right? Those women could exist. But in my experience, I found that more often than not, when I wasn't the one going to them to ask for a relationship, they would come to me. And I found it was immensely easier and better for the relationship, a better indicator of her attraction for me, if she was the one to come to me and ask those questions first, right? Now, I'm going to go back to his thing just a little bit to kind of clarify some points that he made, right? So he said, the biggest issue is, I think when guy, it just isn't the right match or plays his cards all wrong by doing things like asking to be exclusive or committed way too early. If he does things right and is even reasonably a good fit for her, then he may not have much to lose by asking around the 2 to 4 month mark. So this is one of those things, and I talk about this extensively on the show too. This is one of those things whereby I coach you guys based on the probability of you being able to get the outcome you want, right? So here again, we have two situations, right? On the one hand, you have it where the guy's saying, hey, around month 2 to 4, you should go to her and potentially ask her for the relationship. No harm, no foul. We have to ask, though, what is the probability of that being successful versus what is the probability of you waiting for her to come to you and asking for a relationship to be successful in getting into a relationship, right? So here are the things that men don't oftentimes factor into that, right? So for one, as men, we typically fall for women a lot faster. Like most of you guys, by date 2 or 3, even maybe date 1, you have a good conversation, a pleasant meal, and she hooks up with you. You're kind of like, I'm done. That's it, whatever. So as men, we're already going to be designed to do a hyper-focused, quick analyzation of the woman we're dating. We're going to see she got great curves, smells good, laugh is nice, and she knows how to cook. I'm already good. I'm all in. Anything else she brings to the table later on, I can work with it, but I'm done, right? So we're going to make our decisions a lot faster. So here's the thing. Women need, at minimum, 2 months, but most of the time I find between 2 to 3, maybe even stretch it to 4 months where they're going to be doing their due diligence. I did a show last week where I talked about what the I did it on Tuesday, what the attraction process build looks like for women in terms of like how they start to develop feelings for you, right? And so it's not one of these for them, like they go on 3 dates and they've already made a decision. It can take time. And so here's the thing. As a guy moving from dating one woman to the next, you're not going to know what timeline frame these women are on. I can tell you as a general average, it's going to be 2 to 3 months. I've had women come to me in the first 90 days and be like, hey, what's up? I've also had women that it took me about 4 months before they came to me and said, hey, Harry, what's up? But in all those cases, at the point where the women came to me, what information does that tell me? What it tells me is that she has done her full due diligence. She's been able to see the consistency in me. I've been able to give her a lot of good times, if you know what I mean, to where we built up consistent feelings. She can predict that like it's going to be a good time more often than not. She's been able to open up to me and see that I'm not going to judge her for a variety of things. And so at the point that she comes to me, whatever vetting process she has closed that file. Yep. Based on the amount of time that I spent just enough time with him to be able to solidify in my head that this guy's a great guy. And now I want to be in a relationship. And for some women, it's going to be 90 days. For some women, it's going to be 4 months. And you are never going to know which one it is. So let's say you're dating a woman and at the 2-month mark, you decide you're going to ask her for the relationship. And lo and behold, she's a woman that after 90 days was already ready for it. Well, that woman's going to be very happy you came to her and asked her, congratulations. But let's say that fizzles out. You date the next girl, right? The next girl, you come to her after a 2-month mark and you say, hey, I want to be in a relationship. And she's a woman that needed more time. She was in a previous relationship where she got tricked over and she wants to do extra due diligence this time just to make sure that she's not missing any signs of things that she didn't see beforehand, right? And she's a woman that needs 3.5 months before she would come to you and ask for a relationship. And you're at month 2 and you're thinking, because it worked on the last girl, it's going to work on this girl. And now you go to her and say, I want a relationship. And she thinks, why is he rushing me? This is too soon. Oh my God. Like, why is he asking me right now? Like we had a good thing going. I was starting to build stuff with him and now he's trying to ask for a relationship. And now she's thinking, man, if he's asking me for a relationship, he must be already head and heels in love with me. And I'm not there. I don't want to fool him or drag him on or make him think that if he's already there, that I'm never going to get there, but I don't want to keep doing this, because I'm not sure yet if I'm ever going to get there. So I'm out. And then so she leaves and you're like, what's going on? I thought things were going great, right? Versus if you did nothing, then you just kept showing up the way you were. You kept being consistent. 3.5 months in, hey, so I've been having a great time with you. Like, what are we? Which is, again, is the woman saying, I want a relationship, right? They're never going to come out fully and say, I want a relationship, but they're going to say things that indicate they're ready for that conversation. And then at that point, all you do is say, oh, we should talk about that. So on some level, it's almost like you're both bringing it up, but she's the one, again, in this scenario that I painted, right? You have 2 people. One that's like, that you go to and ask for a relationship, one that doesn't. So now this guy's thinking, okay, but like you said later, he says, what if you don't come to her and she's a woman that is trained to believe that the guy's got to come to her and ask for a relationship? And this is what I want to stress to you guys, right? Is that at the end of the day, women are going to act on their emotions. So it doesn't matter what logical thing she had in her head about, well, logically, the guy should come to me and blah, blah, blah. Because for one, it's based on her emotion. She wants to feel as though she's needed and connected with you. And so if that means having to go to you to ask for that, then she will. And number two is that ultimately it speaks to their ego, right? Women, if you're dating them and they like you, they want to be chosen. They want to feel as though the guy wants a relationship. And so if a woman that has high interest in you and sees you as a viable candidate to date is continuing to see you and you're not the one reaching out to her, then there's not going to be any of this like, oh, there's another guy in the background that's going to try to ask me for a relationship first. No, even if that's absolutely true, she's going to be like, yeah, there's another guy asking me, but I want to be with this guy. So I'm going to let him know that there's a guy over here just to see if that now opens him up for the conversation. But that move is still her saying, there's a guy over here, bro, but you know, whatever, it's saying, I want a relationship with you first. So you don't lose points. I try to stress you guys, you don't lose points if you don't go to her and ask for a relationship. But you have a higher probability of losing points and losing the girl if you go to her. And again, I wish it were different. But as life has taught me, the women that I have gone to first or early on to try to ask for a relationship, it usually fizzled out and I never saw them again. The women that I had high interest in them, they had a high interest in me, but I was able to just be patient and wait for them to be ready. When they came to me, if they're chasing you, they can't be replacing you. If they come to you and ask, what are we, blah, 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 they're asking for the relationship. They're not going to ask you for the relationship and then say, oh, but I don't want one, because they're the ones coming to me. So that's why I say that it is better for you to wait. And the problem most guys have is that on some level, a lot of you guys feel as though if there's not a title that's out there, that you're going to lose her. You're not going to be able to lock her down. Like if you don't establish this thing as a relationship, then what if she has some other Chaz or Tyrones out there that are also chasing her? And to that, I say, you have to have more confidence that you have better game going on than Chad and Tyrone. Because let's say she is seeing you with two other dudes, right? I can assure you, if you're patient, what's going to happen is those two other dudes by date 3 or 4 are going to try to ask her to be in a relationship, and she's going to get freaked out by both those dudes. And then come 2 months in, she's going to be like, you know, those other two guys, I had a good time with them, but they asked me way too soon. But it's like, I've been dating this guy for 3 months and I really like him, but he hasn't asked me. The next move is not going to be, well, I guess I got to walk away. No, the next move is going to be, you know what? I need to hint at him or let him know on some level that I want this to be a relationship. And she goes to you, hey, so are you seeing anybody else? So do you have any other people you're talking to? Because I'm not talking to anybody else. And, you know, I'm just curious, like, where your head's at. And, you know, where do you see this potential? They'll start asking those questions. And all you got to do as a guy is know how to respond when they ask those questions if you're interested. So if she comes to you month 3, hey, so what are we? Now you know, oh, crap. This is her. This is what Harry talked about. This is her saying she wants a relationship, and now I need to proceed accordingly in order to have that conversation. At that point, you play dumb initially, like, what do you mean? Well, just because we've been dating for a couple of months and blah, 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 blah. Okay, interesting. So you're saying you want to be potentially in a relationship. Well, let's have that conversation. And then you go into negotiations. Now, in the Introvert Dating Success Coaching Program, I go extensively into the kind of negotiation talk you need to have with a woman before you full out agree to a relationship. But I will say this, your immediate answer is not, yes, it's being in a relationship. You want to make sure that you're getting in a conversation that allows you to make sure that you're going to get out of this relationship what you want, and that you know what her needs are, what your non-negotiables are, what your boundaries and stuff are. Like, all these things are very important things to have before you outright say yes. But also having that conversation will let her know that you're not pressed and desperate for a relationship. Because I can guarantee you, the majority of guys that she's dated have probably not sat her down and said to her, what does having a relationship actually mean to you? What does it entail? What are you looking for, right? And so those are the guys that after 2 or 3 weeks of being in a relationship with the girl end up getting dumped because they didn't do their due diligence, they didn't ask the right questions, and they didn't sit her down and figure out what she actually needs out of this and if they could give it to her. You be that guy that does that, and I can assure you, you're going to have long-lasting relationships. But, so all that to say, in terms of this guy's worries about that, I totally get where you're coming from in terms of like wondering, well, if I don't ask her after 2 or 3 months, what's going to happen? And what if she was told this is that? Her being told by other people, hey, the guy should come to you, is not going to matter. Because if she has high interest, her emotions are going to push her to the edge of the earth to come to you and ask for that relationship. Again, I'm speaking from personal history and experience. I've seen it time and time again, all right? Now, if you have not seen that, what that means is you're probably a guy that has been doing too much action. You've been going to her, asking about feelings and telling her your feelings and trying to say, well, what are we? And when can we be in a relationship? It's been like a month and a half. What's going on? And that means you don't know the full-on roadmap and blueprint of how attraction works for women, of how the buildup works for them, and during that 2 or 3 months, what things you should be doing and not doing in order to establish yourself as a guy that she's going to want. That's why I got a whole program called Introvert Dating Success Coaching Program, which not only walks you through that, but also helps you with any kind of blind spots that you may have that you're not seeing that we can work through, so that way you'll have a better understanding of your reactions to things and why you feel anxious at times and how you can bypass that stuff to be able to effectively do the things you need to do to make sure that the women that you want are the ones that you get. You can check that out again at the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. All right. So with that said, before we get to the main crux of the show, I usually have water here, and I forgot to get water because I was rushing to start the show. So I'm going to get some water while you guys watch this video right here. Hey guys, Harry Wilmington here, and I just want to tell you really quickly about some of the awesome ebooks that I have available at the website. So to start off with, we have my brand new book, Stop Losing Women, which is based off of my previous podcast, and it's over 284 pages of life-changing advice for your dating life. You're going to discover in the span of these pages the ins and outs of how to become more confident, the do's and don'ts of how to attract women, how to pace yourself during the dating process, and ultimately what it truly takes for you to be a more confident dater, so that way you can get out there, attract women, and more importantly, stop losing women, okay? The other ebook that I have on my website is called No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams. This is the first book that I ever wrote, and simply put, it is a 12-chapter masterpiece that is designed to, in a very funny way, mind you, guide you through the ins and outs of why all the things you're trying to do right now to attract women can actually cause you to lose them. I mean, things like being the nice guy, overextending yourself, getting too many gifts, too many compliments, and a variety of other things that you may think as a guy I should be doing. This funny book's going to help you figure out once for all why you should not do those things and how to better yourself instead. So be sure to check that book out as well. The other book that's been very popular at my website is called Texting Like a Boss. This is where, for all you guys out there that have problems texting women or don't understand why she starts off so chummy in the terms of the texting things, and then she starts to kind of go away and you can't figure out what's going on or why, or you're not an efficient enough texter to be able to actually get dates by way of texting. Well, this book is going to give you 21 do's and don'ts that are tried, true, and tested, so that way you can get the results that you want with women when you're texting them, and ultimately not do the wrong things that are going to cause her to eventually ghost you in the texting realm. All right. So check that book out at the website. Lastly, my other popular book that I have there is called 10 Steps to Winning Back Your Ex, the step-by-step, no-nonsense guide to reconnecting with an old flame, regardless of who ended the relationship. And so for you guys that are like, hey, I think I lost a great one and she left me and I want to get her back. Or you might have been the guy that's like, hey, I dumped her and then I realized I made a mistake and I want to get her back. Well, this book covers both of those scenarios in a very detailed step-by-step way that is designed to allow you to figure out what you did wrong, how you can show up better, and the sequence of events you need to go through in order to effectively win back the woman that you are no longer with. So if these things sound like things that'll be helpful to you, then definitely go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, click on the products tab, where you can find a summary of all these books as well as my various programs, and they will be more than happy in helping you figure out whatever part of the dating journey you're on, so that way you will not be confused and you will ultimately be able to have the dating life that you want. So check those out at the website today. All right, we're back. One other thing too, I actually have an album out too as well. So I did an album that I put out last year called Kevin Samuels Was Right. You're going to see a music video for one of those songs at the end of this show, but like it's a jam-packed album of 10 songs that use some of the quotes that Kevin said as album titles, and then it's just songs that are pretty funny and poignant about relationships and dating and stuff like that. So you can check that out. It's on Spotify now. It's on Apple Music. So you can check that out. I was trying to find a link to it, but I forget where the link is. So I'll have to figure that out later. But anyway, so back to the show. Let's see. Before we get into the main topic, I have a question in the chat. It's a very simple question, but okay. So the question in the chat goes, what happens when text conversations aren't as good? Well, my ultimate response is that you should not be having a lot of text conversations. I typically tend to save my texting for when I'm asking for dates and nothing more. And that even goes into when I'm in a relationship. Like, I'll use texting to set up plans. If the woman that I'm dating at that point wants to send me emojis or memes or whatever like that, then that's fine. I'll sporadically send those here and there. But I'm more concerned about conversations in person. Like, I really try to stress to you guys how important it is to make yourself scarce when you're not in front of her face. Like, even let's say you met a woman on a dating app where initially, by default of it being an app, you got to message her because you're trying to, make sure that she feels you out enough to want to at least have an in-person date. At the point that you two have an in-person date, your level of texting should really die down, because at that point, she's willing to see you in person, which means she's going to spend more energy on you, getting to know you, hearing from you, all this other stuff when you're in person. And so when she's away from you, what we want her doing is thinking about you and pondering when you're going to contact her again, and talking to her girlfriends and her mom and her family about you and the date that you guys went on. And, they're going to spend time. I did a video on Tuesday where I showed a girl doing this, where like the girls will be like, going over every little bit of thing that you said on the date and what you wore and how you made her feel, and just analyzing. And women need that exercise to happen in order to convince their brains that they're feeling things for you, because women's are feelings based, right? So when you're not there and she's talking about you and wondering when you're going to call again, what that's feeding to her emotional brain is, you keep talking about him. You keep wanting him to call you. You must really like him if that's the way you're feeling about it right now. And so when you're nonstop texting, you cut off her ability to feel those things. And that's why you'll start to see women start to ghost. Like, guys think, I've had so many men comment on my pull-away test video about how if a woman pulls away, blah, blah, blah. Have you considered that the reason women are pulling away over time is because they need to hear from you less in order to feel more for you, and you're not allowing that. So she has to make that happen. Like, guys don't consider that, right? I've had it before where I'd be texting women nonstop, and then she'd start to slow down. And then if I gave her like 2 or 3 days of not texting, boom, she starts texting back at the same level she was before. Why is that? Because she had 3 days to feel what it would be like without me being there. So I say to guys, if you would just start off by doing that, you would find that women will go out with you and say yes to dates a lot faster. They will hook up with you a lot faster, because everything becomes their choice, versus when you're texting them all the time, they're feeling forced to have interaction with you. You're forcing them to have to think about you when you're not letting it be kept to when they want to do it, right? So all that to say, yeah, texting conversation should be dying down, and you should only be doing it to get dates. If you're doing more than that, that's about 97% of the problems that you're having in terms of like being able to keep these girls long-term. And I learned that the hard way. So I only tell you guys stuff that, trust me, if you're asking that question, I have gone through the ringer of trying to text all the time and seeing the results of that. I'm 42. I've had more than enough experience to know that all this texting you're trying to do is not a good idea, He says, example, I sent her a few messages one night asking how her week was, was going. We had a few exchanges, but she responded 24 hours later with a few words. You know why that is? Because, and this is by the way, if you ask women this stuff that I'm telling you, they will fight you tooth and nail and say it is absolutely not true. I don't care about what women are telling me. I care about the results they're giving me. And so I have found doing this exact thing, thinking I'm going to text in the middle of the week because women bond quicker through communication. And so if I communicate with her all the time and ask how she's doing, then she'll want to respond back. Hey, how was your week? What's going on, gorgeous? What's going on, beautiful? Crickets. Or a slow slide into like 1 or 2 word answers, versus if you just save that question for the date, then you get her on a date and then you ask her how your week was. And here's the thing too, for women, asking that question is now a 20-minute conversation. So when you ask her how her week was, she knows if you want a good conversation out of that her trying to text you her answer is not going to cut it, because she also needs to feel satisfied about the answer she's giving you, which is probably going to be very, very detailed and full of like side characters and plot twists. And that's a lot to have to ask a woman to do over text. But you can ask it in person, and now it's a jovial conversation. She can give you impressions of things and tell you the things that would take too long to do over text, So this is where I say guys fall for the lie that they got to build rapport. They got to ask women as soon as so many guys, as soon as they meet a girl on a dating app or go on one date, they're doing every morning, good morning text and good night text and how was your day text. None of these texts are necessary, and women don't actually need it from you in order to build attraction. What they need is time away from you so they can miss you and anticipate the next interaction they're going to have with you. When you do all this texting, you know what happens? 24 hours of silence, because now she's not anticipating hearing from you. She's like, oh, he's going to keep texting me. Well, I'll get back to him anytime. And that is not a man that she's going to ultimately have long-term satisfaction or feelings for. So, and again, I know I'm coming from like, I always feel like I'm coming from like the later stages of dating. Like I've been through this stuff, so I can tell you on my side of things, hey, all this testing isn't necessary. All I'm telling you to do is try it out. Try not the next, either this girl or the next girl you talk to, try leaving texting specifically and only for when you're setting up a date and see what's happening. Because if you're losing out by texting him all the time, the worst thing that'll happen when you're not texting him all the time is you'll lose out again. But going with probability, I have found you stand a better chance of keeping a woman's interest in you a lot longer and making it feel a lot stronger if you are not the one that is constantly reaching out to them. Again, if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. But if you, by way of texting, makes it feel to her like you're chasing her, then she's going to lose interest a lot faster. And I've been able to turn this kind of situation around. I've had women that I texted where like they didn't respond back for like 2 or 3 days, and I had to finally just stop texting them, and then they come right back. So you don't lose points again for slowing down your texting. At worst, I found women will be like, hey, so I noticed you don't text me a whole lot, blah, 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 blah. One, that lets me know that she really likes me because she wouldn't be saying this otherwise. And then B, I just say, ultimately, I'm the one that set the parameters for this. I'll just be like, oh yeah, like, you know, I really like talking to you, but I just find that, I always say this, I find that I really like to save most of our conversation in person, and I don't want to unintentionally say something over text that gets misinterpreted, that won't be misinterpreted if I say it with a certain inflection tone or whatever. So that doesn't mean, I always tell women, I say, hey, anytime you want to reach out to me, I'll be more than happy to respond back. And I'm still going to be asking you out, but I just don't text that much. Like, and again, I can say that. I can totally be like, I'm not a big texter, but I still want to see you. If they feel some kind of way about that, that's on them, not on me. But I find women are great at being able to go with your program if you set up your program the right way early on. So because I start out not texting a whole lot, women that I'm dating never expect me to text a whole lot. But if you start off by texting a whole lot and then you try to slow it down on your end of things, because women are looking for consistency from you, that's not a consistent action. Now it looks suspicious. So if you don't text all that much in the beginning, you can never be accused of that. Again, just things I picked up along the way, you know? He says, is bad text conversations an indicator of no compatibility or just bad communication? No, bad texting conversations are indicative of you as a guy thinking that texting conversations are a barometer for how much she feels for you, and it is not. I've dated women that barely texted me at all and actually would only respond when I was asking for dates. Because again, I'm not a big texter. They might not be big texters. Most women I find don't actually want to text a whole lot. Like when they like a guy, they would rather sit there and think about how great you are versus you trying to send these little silly texts that in her head, it honestly starts to feminize you a little bit. Like you texting is a way of saying, please respond to me so I feel approval. And that turns women off. Again, I'm just speaking from experience, right? So that's why I'm saying it's not a matter of, are they a bad or good communicator? It's a matter of, look at this, right? How is she talking to you in person versus on the phone? Because all I care about more often than not is how good are we connecting in person. So if you're judging her based on how bad her texting is, but in person, she's saying all the things, she's laughing at all your jokes, she's, praising you and all this other stuff, I'm going with that because that's her. She's saying a lot more words in person than she's ever going to get to say on text. But so many guys have become dependent on, if I'm not getting a text from her all the time, or if she's not, if she's not sending me more than 3 words of an answer, then, oh my God, this is not going somewhere. Dude, at the end of the day, most women are not actually trying to be on the phone to talk to you. Like that's the real lesson here, right? And again, if you ask women, they will fight you on it. I have yet to lose out to a woman because I was not texting her a whole lot. Like, unless it was a woman that was like, had anxious attachment style or is hella needy, in which case we're not going to be a good fit anyway. I'm an introvert. I need my alone time. I don't need you. The few times that I dated women that were the opposite, where they wanted to text me all the time, what would happen is they would be texting me and then I would be the one where like, I'm trying to stop the conversation. I'm trying to go play a video game. hang with my friends, and then they're texting me, hello, hey, what's going on? To them, I'm sure I had a bad communication style, but they were over texting and it got annoying. And at that point, I was like, oh, this must be what women go through. When they're like, I like the guy, but dang, I got to hear from him all the time. And that's a hard thing for guys to get. It's like, how could she not want to hear from us, but still like us? And the answer is her brain is wired to build feelings for you based on how she's feeling about you at any given time. When you are constantly texting her, she's feeling annoyed. Annoyed does not equate with her being attracted to you. Versus when you're not texting all the time, that equates with, oh my God, I think I miss this guy. I want to see him. I must like him. She can connect the feeling of missing you to, therefore, she must want you around more. So that's why you win and you get women faster when you're not texting them all the time. So yeah, if a woman's a bad communicator, what that should signal to you is you are actually being the bad communicator by texting her too much, and you need to back off and save it for asking for dates. That's what really that amounts to, you know? So hopefully some of what I said has helped you out. Let's see. Okay, I don't know. Somebody's trying to advertise my thing. I don't know what that's about. Okay. All right. So we got a question in the chat. The question goes, does it mean I'm doing something wrong or not interested if by 3 to 4 months she doesn't bring up the what are we talk? I don't know if you have answered that today or in a video. I'm late to the show. I have not. I've literally have not answered that question. So I will go ahead and answer that question. So well, I tell you guys, on average, it takes 2 to 3 months. For some women, if they've gone through trauma, if they had an abusive ex in the past, or had other various situations that resulted in them putting too much trust in men early on, then it could drag out to like 4. I've seen no more than usually like 5 months. But also, so that's one thing, right? That's why I say it's not a perfect system. I'd say probability wise, the average is 2 to 3 months, right? But here's the thing also is that if it's going beyond 3 or 4 months, you have to look at a few things. One, you honestly have to look and see if is she just using you for money and for good dates, but not actually wanting to be with you. But you gotta look at her actions overall. Is she consistently complimenting you? Is she giving you hookups in the bedroom on a regular basis? If that's the case, if that's going well, then you have to look at okay, how often are you guys seeing each other? I have found usually when women are hesitant to come to you for that, then it could mean that you're seeing her too much. If you're seeing her 3 or 4 days out the week and you've been doing that for like the last 3 or 4 months, that's probably way too much time spent together. The other one, honestly, is that some women think some women just feel as though there doesn't need to be titles. They just think, well, we're hooking up and it's a good thing. And some women are scared by titles. If we become boyfriend or girlfriend, now there's more responsibility and oh my God. And that could also speak to in the past when that happened, she had a bad experience. And so she's not hoping for that. Right. So this is one of those things. This is like little advanced type stuff. Right. But this is one of those things where if it's going 4 or 5 months, say you get 3 or 4 months, I'd say just give it a little more stretch of time. Again, it's not a perfect system, so it might have to stretch out to 4 months, right? If it gets to month 5 and nothing's happening, that would be a point where if you're still wanting a relationship, then there's ways to bring up those kind of conversations without you directly saying we need to be in a relationship, what's going on, right? For example, let's say with these days, videos on TikTok, videos on YouTube are a great way to introduce topics, right? So there's plenty of videos on there. You could type in a girl or guy won't ask dude for a relationship after X amount of time, right? So you can find one of those videos on TikTok and then be like, hey, I came across this video, and it'll be a video like this girl saying, it's been 5 months and we're not in a relationship, blah, blah, blah. And then you say yeah, I found that to be an interesting video. What were your thoughts on that? Boom. Now she can now because it's not being directly at her, you're using, in this case, you're talking in a woman's passive language, which you're saying, hey, this is these people's situation where it's been 4 or 5 months and they didn't have a title. What do you think about titles? Do you think that's a really important thing? If people are dating, does that need to come to that at some point? What are your thoughts about that? And then you can hear her out and see what she has to say about that. Oh, well, I think, people have been dating for a bit of time, then they should consider titles. Oh, so how long would that be for you? Boom. Oh, well, maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe okay, cool. And then you leave it alone. And then 4 or 5 months comes, see what happens. And if it's still, she doesn't come to you, at that point, you got a couple of decisions to make. Either A, you can just keep going as is. Also, what I found too sometimes is that sometimes if a woman has been with you that long, and again, you got to look at each woman different, right? If it's a situation where she's doing all the right things, she's, again, regular bedroom action, she's regularly going on dates. She never flakes on anything. She's done met your friends at this point and they all whatever. It could be one of those things where because she already feels as though it feels like a relationship, that she's like, why call it anything? Like I've had it where like I've dated people where it's just like it kind of felt like we known each other for a while. We were clearly doing all the things, and we just never had that official conversation. It just kind of became like we just kind of knew like, oh, this is like it is what it is, right? And so it could be that situation also where she didn't think she had to bring it up because again, even though again I teach you guys on averages and probability. So while the majority of women will come to you to ask for a relationship, not all of them will. So this could be an outlier situation. And that does pop up. I don't like to teach outliers because I don't want to give guys false hope that they're going to be the outlier situation. So that's why I say this is like general advice that works overall in probability, stuff like that, right? But in your situation, I would say if it gets to month 5 and she's doing all the things that are right, but just hasn't called anything or come to you about the situation, then you got to decide if you want to try to call it out and say, hey, Joe, just so we're clear, like we're in something, right? Like this is what we're doing. Or again, do the TikTok, YouTube video thing I just told you about and see if that's a way to introduce that conversation, all right? But like I said, on average, I found, again, for me, women typically come to me and ask that. The latest I've had is like 3.5 months. So you're still technically in the right path. In the meantime, you just keep being consistent. You keep asking her out once a week, showing up for her, all that stuff. You keep doing that part. As long as she's not continuing to reject that stuff and is still doing the things I talked about, then you're still good. It may be at this point that you want the title and it's just not being spoken. So that's something you got to come to terms with and figure out what you want to do based on how you're feeling about that, you know? So hopefully that gives you a little help about that. Let's see. Hold on a second here. All right. We got a question in the chat. And the question is there any advice for dating women attorneys with complicated schedules? I dated one, and she had a lot of family abuse cases, and over time, she developed a fear of physical intimacy because of the things she saw. I had to end it. Now I'm dating a new attorney. Oh, man, you must live in an attorney town of some kind. Cali's the same way. There's a lot of attorneys out here. Now I'm dating a new, well, also kudos to you guys for ending it, because there are so many dudes that'll write me and be like, well, you know, we're not hooking up, but I really like her. Would it be wrong of me to dump her? And my answer is always like, no, you want to hook up. She doesn't. Those are different realities. And so you can feel empathy for her and still not want to stay with her. So I'm glad you're able to be like, I can find somebody else. This is what we call, guys, having an abundance mindset, where it's like, you get the things you want, and if you don't, you know that there's somebody else out there. You don't ever want to force the person you're with to do things that they don't want to do. But if you want them done and they're not from her, you can find somebody else. That is in your perfect right. You ain't got to stick with them just because they're a good person, like, but they don't want to do some of the things you want to do that are normal to a relationship. Get the freak out, you know? Anyway, he says he fears the same thing will come up. The situation will repeat itself. I feel women with careers like that absorb a lot of their work issues and bring it to their personal lives. I've seen it with doctors before and haven't learned to deal with it, LOL. So here's the thing. The reality is that lawyer that you dated previously was just one lawyer, and that was just one woman, and she had trauma. I can assure you, as a guy that has dated lawyers, doctors, teachers, they are not all like that. And it just comes down to like conversations. This is also, but also hope you're learning that this is also why you as a guy should also be vetting women for 2 to 3 months instead of falling head over heels after 2 or 3 dates, because these are the kind of things that'll show up that if you're being patient and not being fully emotionally invested into the process, you'll be able to have an objective analytical mindset and be like, oh, I see this thing popping up again. I need to have a conversation about that. And then if the conversation goes badly, I got to get out. If it goes well, we'll adjust and figure out what to do. So I would say that ultimately you don't want to do what women do, which is like have baggage from a previous situation drug over to a new person just because there's slight parallels. Like, oh, this one was a lawyer and this one was a lawyer. Oh my God. That'd be like if a woman was like, you know, oh, with the last guy that I hooked up with on a one-night stand, he ended up abusing me. So no more one-night stands. And then you come along, you're a nice guy, and you're thinking everything's going great. And you're like, oh, if she wanted to do some stuff, we totally could. And then she's like, if he dares ask me for one-night stand, I'm going to dump him. Like, I was just asking, lady, like, if you didn't want me, you could have said no, but no, you're going to be toxic. Like, don't. So it's hard because our brain what our brain wants to do is keep us as safe as possible. And so what our brain's going to do is try to make connections to things that don't connect. Like, oh, lawyer and no sex. So that must be the connection. So this next lawyer is going to also want, no, don't do that. Like you'll trip yourself up every time and you'll end up losing out on great women that would have actually given you what you wanted off of the history of somebody else that's no longer there anymore, you know? So I would just say, don't like buy into that thing that like, oh, all these female lawyers. Again, I've dated plenty of freaky teachers, lawyers, doctors, all the other stuff. Like, they're out there. If you found the one that doesn't want to do that stuff, it is what it is. Now, in terms of the other stuff, in terms of the aspect of their lives being busy and stuff like that, the reality is women that are in high-powered jobs are going to be busy. They're going to be traveling. They're going to have meetings at times that go late that results in them being hella tired. You have to know going in that that's what you're signing up for. And if it so happens you can't handle that, then you don't want to stick there and continue with it as if you could handle it, only to be bothered by it later. As a guy that's an introvert, if I'm dating somebody that is regularly traveling or not there, my typical response is like, fantastic. I like my alone time. I do find that in relationships, I like another person being around a lot more than when I'm single. But suffice to say that I sign up for when I'm dating a person, I'm learning their jobs and what they do. I kind of know based on what their description is of how their job's going to be. If I decide to date them, I can't get mad at them if their schedule ends up being the way that I thought it was going to be based on our conversations, right? So you just have to learn how to like maneuver around that in a way that's going to be suitable for you and for her. It's not going to be her fault that she gets called to stay late sometimes, but it's going to happen. There's going to be times where you're going to plan a date and the last minute she's got a case going on that she's got to go to, and you're going to be mad about it. But guess what? You can't let it bug you because you signed up for it, you know? So all I care about in those situations is the woman still trying to show effort that she still cares about me. If she's staying late to the thing, she's sending me little texts and say like, hey, just thinking about you, wish I could come home. Like, for me, that's enough. She sent that, okay, great. Have a thing at the time, you know? If she's got to do a work dinner or she's got to travel out of state to go to some lawyer thing, just, hey, see when you get back. No harm, no foul. I don't hold them against them. That is part of their job. And I knew that when I signed up. And I think so many guys get butthurt by actions that women are doing that they knew the woman was going to do when they started dating her. So if that's the lane you're going, then you got to accept everything that comes with the lawyer lifestyle if you choose to date them. If not, find somebody that has a less paying job that's going to be around 24/7. You might need that, but ideally you would not, because I know me personally, that would drive me freaking crazy, you know? So hopefully that helps you out. All right, so we're going to get into the main topic of discussion real quick. Let me just get this water real quick, this delicious water. All right, so let's talk about how treating dating like sales will improve your success. So like I said before, guys, and any questions you guys leave, I'll get to after this segment of the show. So here's the problem that most guys have these days with dating is that they've bought into the lie that they bought into a few lies, actually. A big lie that you guys have bought into is that women want a man that is emotional or as emotional as them. And so this is where we buy into the lie that we need to tell them our feelings and emote and text them all the time and all these other things that we don't need to do, all right? The other lie, though, that's equally important is that if you are a man with a plan, if you're a man of that has a systematic way of dating, that it's unromantic and therefore it's manipulative and therefore you're just trying to trick women into getting with you, right? But and a lot of that narrative and a lot of the things that we hear from that way come from women, because on the women's side of things, and by the way, women can be as calculating. Most women are more calculating in the dating world and in their romantic relationships than men are. Like, women have figured out, for example, if I just say a certain thing or say like, oh my God, I wish I could get this, blah, 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 blah. Oh, like they know how to string us along with their tears and their perfumes and stuff to make us do darn near anything. The number of guys I see online, for example, that are like, will willingly just send women. Like, they'll meet a woman on Facebook and be like, hey, I want to send you like $1,000. Why? And all she had to do is put that little sob story. Oh, boo-hoo, I wanted to get a dress, but I couldn't do it. Like, but anyway, not the point. So the point is, so men, though, we think that if we're logic and calculated in how we date, that it means that we're tricking women, we're manipulating them, and we're not making them do what they would actually do, but we're tricking them to do things that they wouldn't want to do as it pertains to dating us. And I've said on this show time and time again that women like to date a man who has a plan, because the man that has a plan is saying to the woman subconsciously, I know how to handle you in a way that's going to keep you safe and protected. And I know this because I have these parameters that I put together that are going to allow you to have a good time, allow you to get to know me better, and are going to make you feel like you're with a guy you can trust, right? And so even though they won't say that out loud, subconsciously, that's how they take it. That's why players do so well. Like, men think players are the bad guys. players are dudes that know how to handle women, and women can tell, and that's why they keep sleeping with Chads and Tyrones instead of you. So one of the things that helped me early on in my dating life was when I started studying a guy named Doc Love, and then there was a guy named David D'Angelo, and there are a bunch of other guys, right, that had processes in place. They had processes down about certain mechanics of the dating game working in a certain way, how they function, why they attract women, and then the steps you could do in order to make those things a reality. And I did them, and they worked. But the big one for me at the time was Doc Love. When I was 21, in my late 20s, in my 20th year of here, I don't know what I'm trying to say. The point is, when I was 20, about to turn 21, that's what I'm trying to say. There was a girl that I had a crush on at my college, and she had a crush on me. And so at some point, I started to realize that she was acting weird around me. And part of it was honestly because I was doing all the weird thing. Well, I was doing all the things that I wasn't noticing her signals to me. I wasn't noticing when she would invite me over to have a private study session. I wouldn't notice when she would cook for me. Like, none of the stuff registered in my head as a girl liking me, right? So by the time I figured that out, my plan of action was, okay, I'm going to call her up and tell her I like her, and then we can start dating. So I called her up. Hey, so just want you to know that I like you. Her response, yeah, I kind of figured that you liked me. Oh, okay, great. Well, all right, cool. I'll see you in class tomorrow. And then for the rest of that, my junior year semester, it was weird. Like, I tried to go around her. She wouldn't talk to me. I was trying to get her a gift for her birthday, and she wouldn't even open the door for me. It was a whole bunch of stuff, right? And so at that point, I'd gone 20 years now studying how to date. I've been studying these Christian dating books. I've been studying these, how women take things. And all these books will tell you, like, oh, women want a guy that's sensitive and in tune with the emotions, and they don't want a guy that's going to try to just sleep with them and just use them for sex and blah, 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 but all that stuff, right? And I found at the age of 20, it was not working. And at 21, I had a semester off from college because I got into this live theater show where I'd be going up and down the coast and through Kansas and Nebraska and all this stuff in a van with 6 other dudes doing this tour, right? And that was when I started observing the guys that I was with, the ones that were straight. We'd go to clubs. I'd see them like getting women left and right. And they were doing all the things that I was told not to do. They were slapping girls on the butt, and they were, darn near neg hitting them and stuff. I was like, what is going on? So I started doing internet research because I was like, there's got to be something on the internet that's going to help me. And that's when I found Doc Love stuff. And the thing that he said that really solidified for me how dating should work was when he said that dating is very much like sales. And I was like, at the time, I'd never heard that before. Like, wait a minute, like, how are sales and dating the same? Now, at the time, I had not done sales. So there were other things that he said that were helpful, but the sales part of it didn't really click until I started doing sales like 2 years later for my uncle. Oh, actually, sorry. It was later that summer when I started doing sales for him. He used to sell Rainbow vacuum cleaners. And so as I was learning sales tactics from him on that job, and then later on I sold Cutco knives, which are still the best knives in the world. I still have the ones I sold 20 years ago in my kitchen right now, and they cut just as sharp. I'm not trying to plug Cutco, but if you're watching, cut me a check. Anyway, so yeah, when I started doing sales more and more, I was doing sales, and then by the time I got to knife sales, I finally lost my virginity, and I was able to start to see parallels between how I was trying to sell knives and vacuums and what was effectively working for me in the dating world. And I was like, oh my God, Doc Love was right. Like, sales and dating actually have a whole lot in common in terms of, if you want to be successful at sales, a lot of the tactics you need to use to be successful at sales are the same things that you need to be using in order to be successful in the dating world. Now, I will say this. I've expressed this thought before on TikTok, and the response from women has been, that shouldn't be a thing. And understand, oftentimes women, they're not going to like the way that guys say things or think about things because their process of how they think about dating and how they think about relationships is completely different. Even though they do their own sales job, them calling it that in their head, to them sounds like manipulation. And because it doesn't sound pretty, they're not going to ever say, yeah, I use sales tactics to try to get guys. But they totally do. They totally do. And so, but for you as a guy, I tell you this because I think there is a wiseness in taking some of the romance out of dating for you. Like, yes, you need to be a guy that is able to do romance, but for you to be a guy that is obsessed with emotions and obsessed with, she's going to buy me flowers and candy, blah, 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 it's going to trip you up every time. And more importantly, romance is for women. So on your end of things, you need to be the guy that uses the powers of your analytical brain to be able to do things that are going to get you the results that you want and need from women, but in an ethical way. And I want to stress that too, because when I say the thing of like, dating is like sales, sometimes people come and say, but, salesmen are so sketchy and tricky and they're just trying to do this and that. And so I'm going to go over a little bit of that when I go over these points here. But suffice to say is that the majority of salespeople that do a good job at sales are ethical people. So this is not going to be a lesson on like how to trick women into trying to get you when they wouldn't want you in the first place. No. That is not how good sales works. Every single knife set that I sold when I was doing Cutco was I would first of all I would prospect them, and then more often than not I was trying to sell to people that actually wanted knives. So at that point, am I trying to trick them into getting knives, or am I trying to help them better make a decision about why these particular knives are great? And so in terms of the sales to dating scenario, once you start looking at it like that, like the goal of sales is to help the other person make the best educated guess they can about the product that's being placed in front of them for them to make the best decision for them, then you will see how doing the same thing in the dating world is not only ethical, but it actually behooves you to do it that way. So that way women will feel 100% solidified about choosing you as the person that they date. So with that said, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about, I have 13 things here, 13 parallels that sales has to dating that is going to help you out immensely to hopefully get your head on the right frame of not being so romantic focused and more so sales focused. So let's get into it. So to start off with, in both situations, whether it's sales or trying to date, in both situations, there is a product to sell and it has to be branded well. So in the sales world, it could be knives, vacuum cleaners, everything you've ever bought in your entire life is a product, and it had to be sold to you. My friend got married and had these mugs. I was like, I like these mugs. I went and got these mugs. And the mug didn't have to talk to me and try to convince me to buy it. I liked the way it looked. I needed mugs. I got it. So you have to look at yourself as a product, right? You are a product that a woman is looking at and determining, does she want to get that product? But here's the caveat, right? Is that ideally you are a product that has branded yourself well enough to where it's going to be not so hard of a decision for a woman to want to, at the very least, canvas you and prospect you, right? And so what I find for most guys is that they have not branded themselves properly. Now, what does this mean? Branding is everything. Your car, the way you walk, the way you talk. I have a particular branding for this show, which is why you guys are watching it. So whatever I'm doing that is making you feel a connection to me, guess what, guys? I sold you. That's brand. This shirt, I got these shirts because I'm trying to look nicer for the show because I'm trying to get a certain type of clientele coming in to watch videos and buy my extremely expensive programs, right? So I have to know what brand does that audience want? And so this comes to, if you are a product that is out there for women to consume, are you giving the market what it wants in terms of putting yourself out there to the women that you want? If you're not, then you're not doing a good job of selling yourself to women. And it's something that can be worked on. Number two, much like in sales, you fare better if you go in knowing what your average buyer's wants and needs are. And what trips a lot of men up is, on the one hand, they want a feminine woman, but they want these feminine women to think about things and act in ways that we want. So we want a woman that's going to be more so in her logical brain than in her emotional brain, and not use this passive language. If you want a feminine woman, that's what she's going to do. So you got to know going in that that's the thing, right? But suffice to say, so you have to know going in also that women are going to have certain wants and needs that may be different from you. You may want direct communication, but she may want somebody that knows how to be flirty and playful and, use passive language that means to hint at things, She may want a guy that not necessarily is overly emotional, but is able to not make fun of her when she's crying a whole lot, Women want guys that are protectors and providers, right? And so if you're not able to protect her or look like you could at least, afford a meal, then you can be mad at women all want for not choosing you. But if the market at large wants X, Y, and Z things, and you're trying to give them F and Q, you're going to get F'd. Sorry, and not in the way you want, So you have to start studying, okay, beyond my feelings about those things or what I think women should want, what are the things that they actually want? What are things that they're saying they want, but they actually need this thing over here, and why is that? And when you start to study that stuff, you'll start to listen less to women's words and more to the things that they actually go for. Because like women will say things like, I would never date a man that does X, Y, and Z, but look at her track record. She's definitely been with guys that did X, Y, and Z, right? And so that lets you know that if you don't know your market, much like in sales, then you're going to be prospecting to the wrong people, or you're not going to be able to present yourself in a way that demonstrates to them that you're able to give them what they want on their side of the market. All right. So you can't be offended by that. Just know, just because we try to teach women, hey, this is what guys want. Guys want this and that and this and that. And so if a woman comes along that doesn't give you that stuff, you are also in your full right to not go with her. But suffice to say, it's the same is true for them. So don't be mad at what the market wants. Learn what they want, and then learn what you can do in your own way that you are willing to do in order to make sure that the market sees that you are now a viable candidate to give her some of her wants and needs. The third way that dating is like sales is that, much like in sales, you also fare a lot better if you let the client speak more than you do. And too many of you guys go on dates and try to tell her your whole life story and try to overtalk her. She asks you one question and you just talk nonstop at the monologue for 20 minutes straight. I'm like, unless you're doing a podcast, what are you doing? And so what I have found is that if you learn how to ask better questions to women and let them talk, they will tell you all you need to know about how to attract her, about her likes, her dislikes, her favorite color, what she likes to do on the weekends, the kind of dates she likes to go on. Like, you will learn all this stuff if you listen to them. Now, in the sales world, you go into a house and you say, hey, so tell me about yourself, tell me about your situation, how long you been here. When I was selling vacuums, it's like, oh, so tell me how long have you had this place? Okay, so like, what situations have you had with your vacuum cleaner? How your rugs, have your rugs been coming out clean, or have they still been kind of dirty afterwards? Like, what's that been like? And you sit there and listen, and the more they talk, they'll tell you what they like about their current vacuum, what they dislike, what things they wish their vacuum did, if only they had a thing that did X, Y, and Z. And then from there, I'm like, okay, great. They give me all this information. Okay, so based on that, okay, so they want this and they this and that. Does my machine do that? Okay, how can I now tell them about that? But I only get that if I was listening to what they were saying. And some of you guys, like the guy earlier asked about texting, we try to say so much to women. We want to text them all the time and get on dates and talk. You listen. When you listen, you can figure out what they want. If you're constantly talking, you're gonna get home from a date, not know anything about her, and be like, I barely know her middle name. Like, I don't know anything about her. And that's your fault, guy. You gotta, of the two of you, it's better for you to come to the table and be more of the listener early on than the over talker. All right. And you get a lot better results because you'll know where she's coming from. And then from there, it's just easy peasy. Like, you'll know what dates to take her on. You don't have to ask her what her favorite food is, or is it okay if we do X, Y, and Z? You'll know that because the prospect told you what they wanted. The fourth way that dating and sales are related is that, and I stressed this earlier, but I'll say it again. Sales is not about tricking somebody into getting the thing. It's about helping them say yes to a product that they're already interested in, okay? So, for example, if you ask a woman on a date and she says yes, at that point, if you go on a date and try to do all the things, you don't have to put so much effort forth. Her saying yes on some level should say to you, I'm already interested in this product. And what some guys do is the woman will say yes, and then they'll go home and think like, but she didn't really want to date me, and I must have forced her into saying yes, and I feel bad, so I need to make sure she will. And then you end up talking the chick out of the date, versus just if she said yes, regardless of how you thought she said yes or why. I've told the story before, but like I had a female friend I was interested in a while back, and I asked her on a date, and she was looking like I'm crazy for asking her, but I was like, no, I just want to do the date. Like, it's not I said, this isn't a marriage proposal. This is just two friends going out to see what's what, no harm, no foul. And I was like, she's going to cancel. But she said yes to the date, and then we went on the date. So even though we ended up not getting together, the reality is she was still willing to do the date to see what was what. Right? If I try to stay there and, try to convince her, please, I swear to God, oh my God, blah, blah, like, that's not the goal, right? Because here's the thing, is again, we're not trying to get somebody interested in you when they're not. So if they're saying yes, that means on some level, there's enough curiosity there for them to want to go on the date. But I don't want you to feel bad when you ask women on dates and they say yes, and you're thinking, they said reluctantly, oh my God, they weren't totally enthusiastic. Like, this isn't how that works. Women are the queens of giving excuses as to why they can't show up for a date. Oh, my dog died. Oh, something happened at work. Oh, it's raining outside. Like, trust me, they will find a way. It won't be direct, but they'll find a way to say no to you if they don't want to see you. All right. So don't assume that you're tricking these women into seeing you. You're not. You're not that great. All right. They're saying yes because there's a level of interest there that it'd be worth exploring for them. The fifth parallel between dating and sales is that both of these things involve persuasion and negotiation. And this especially is true for like the bigger moves in dating, the trying to get that first kiss, that first hookup, getting into the relationship. These are things that it's going to take a slower process, but it's just like in sales. Like in sales, let's say, again, I was selling Cutco knives, but at the time, they're more expensive now, but at the time, a whole set could be like $1,000. So this is where it's like, I know they want knives, but do they want $1,000 knives or $600 knives set? So that's when I get into, I'm going to do the best during this presentation to show all that I have to offer. And then at the end, that'll help them make an educated guess. I can show them the knives, why they cut so well. I can show them the various cutting boards. I can show some of the freebies that they get when they get the set. All I can do is try to do the best I can to persuade them. And then from there on, I get to the end. Hey, so you want to get these knives? They're $1,000. Well, I don't know about 1,000. Great. Negotiation time. She might not want the 1,000, but she might want the 600 or 700 set. And I sold those sets. That's how I know they happened. I never quite got to the upper echelon, but like I sold like $13,000 worth of knives in the span of like 3 months because I would go in there, I would persuade people. And by the way, I'm not persuading them by tricking them. And in the knives case, I'm literally cutting things with the knife. I'm cutting leather. I'm cutting foods. I'm showing them their knives and how they work versus my knives. Like all I'm doing is saying, hey, I got this product. Let me show you what it can do. So when you're dating, you're not trying to overly extend as a means of trying to force this person into thinking of you as a relationship candidate. All you're doing is you're going on a date and you're persuading her. How? By listening to her, by making her laugh, by picking out, it ain't gotta be an overly expensive dating spot, but like something that looks like you put forth effort. Like you're showing that you're putting forth effort, you're giving her little hugs here and there, maybe a compliment or two. But like these are things that are just going to naturally persuade her into thinking, oh, he feels like a good guy. Oh, I think I can trust him. And for women, that persuasion time takes 2 or 3 months because they need to be able to see you consistent. And so part of persuading them is being able to see the level of consistency you are bringing to the dating table, right? And so again, just like sales, you persuade, and then when it comes time to get into a relationship or comes time to hook up for the first time or whatever, this is when negotiations happen. They're not always verbal negotiations, but trust, negotiations are happening. Now, again, in my Introvert Dating Success Coaching Program, we talk about the kinds of negotiations to have verbally that get you what you want and make sure she knows that she's getting what she wants out of this as well. Check that out at the website. All right. Another parallel between dating and sales is that as you're learning your client, you learn to adapt in the moment. So I teach you guys frameworks of things. Like I'll say, okay, this is typically how a first date's going to go. This is typically how the dating process is going to go. When you're having conversations with women, this is typically the way it should balance back and forth so you have the best rapport possible with this person, right? That said, there's going to be things from moment to moment whereby you are going to have to be able to end up possibly moving things around in the event that things aren't going the way you were anticipating they were going to go. So for example, I dated a girl one time where I met her online and I met her online and then I was like, hey, so just, you want to go on a date tonight? She was like, sure, let's do it. Right? So then from the moment I heard that, oh crap, like, okay, she's good for a date tonight. I gotta move in the moment because I thought it was going to be like, I'm going to take her out tomorrow night, but she had plans the next night. I was like, okay, let's do it tonight. So I said, okay, I'll find a place. Great, found a place. So we get I pick her up from her place. She allowed me to pick her up, and I had planned to take her to this Mexican restaurant that is very popular here in LA, right? So we get there. It was a little too popular because they were full to capacity. So at that moment, did I panic? No, because in my head, what I tell you guys, you should always have 2 or 3 spots you can take a woman to at any given time on a date. So I knew there was a second version of this restaurant that was like 10 minutes away. So I said, hey, no worries. We'll go to the other spot. Fine. So we drive all the way to the other version of this restaurant, also packed. And at that point, I was like, crap, 2 restaurants? What the freak? But wait, I said, you know what? I got a 3rd restaurant. Took her to TGI Fridays. Open, not a big crowd. Went in there, and we had a great evening, and then a great evening later on. But suffice to say, guys, like, because I was able to just go with when things weren't going the way I wanted them to, where does it show the prospect now? Oh, this guy thinks on his feet. oh, he knows how to listen to me. You could be in a situation where, let's say you're planning to take a woman to like a pizza restaurant, and you get there and she's like, oh, actually, I have a gluten allergy. Oh, crap. You got to now move in the moment, but that's okay. You can adapt, right? Or let's say you had plans of like, you were thinking, okay, if this date goes well, on the next date, I'm going to hook up with her. And then you get to the end of that second date and she's like, well, I had a good time, and gives you a hug and a kiss, but won't let you up to her place. Do you get mad now? Or are you just like, okay, I'll pivot. Hey, you know what? That's cool. Can I come up to your place? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great, no problem. I'll see you next time. Like, you don't get butt hurt. You know, things can change. And you just know next time you plan something else that's maybe closer to her place to where she's going to feel more comfortable bringing you up afterwards. Like, but these are things as a guy you need to always have, is that the prospect in front of you, they're going to throw something at you that you didn't anticipate, or life's going to throw something at you that you didn't anticipate. Can you pivot when that happens? If you get freaked out because things aren't going your way, that is not a guy that a woman's going to trust, because they want guys that can go with the flow, or that when something happens that they're not too pleased with or they didn't anticipate, that the guy, they can follow that guy's lead into what to do next. And so women are studying your leadership from day one, guys. If you're not good at it, then you're probably losing out just because you're like, what should we do now, princess? I don't know what to do. Women don't want that from their guy. Women want to be able to be like, what's your plan to get us out of this? So what's your plan when I bring this into your attention? And you're going to get tested from that, by the way, early on in the dating process. So get used to it. Let's see. Another parallel between dating and sales is that the best salespeople ultimately are authentic people. I get it, guys. I know there are guys out there that'll lie to women to get what they want, but they don't leave those women happy in the long run, right? But and so I say, I don't want you to think of sales as a bad thing, because inherently sales are good. Sales people are trying to sell people on stuff that they themselves already express interest in. You know, the salesperson at the car lot gets a bad reputation, but it's not like they're going out into the street and saying, hey, you, come check these cars out. Somebody had to come to them. So all these car salespeople are trying to do at this point is trying to say, you came here for a car. Let's see if we can find something that you want, because you came to me. So understand, when women are saying yes to dates with you, and when they're going out with you, they're not looking for the fake version of you. They want to get to know the authentic version of you. Now, the problem most guys have when they hear that is like, but I try to be my real self, this and that. But the problem could very well be that the version of you that you currently are, while being authentic, is not a version that is going to benefit women that you're trying to date. And also, let's be real, is that you may think that right now you're being the authentic version of yourself, but guys develop a lot of bad habits, in part because of we get a lot of rejection early on in our dating years, and so we start thinking, okay, I gotta be the perfect guy, I gotta be this way, and I can't ever fight with women, I can't bring up sex and XYZ, and I gotta make sure that I cater to them and tell them I'll give them whatever they need, like all the R&B songs tell me to do. And then we believe that that's us being our authentic selves. And so women are looking at this like, this is not authentic at all. Why is this guy over complimenting me? Why is he trying to like already give me a hookup at a hamburger place downtown? Like, why is he trying to overextend himself to me? Like, because in a relationship, like, that's not what she wants. Like, she's not expecting you as the guy to overextend yourself even in a relationship capacity. But you do it early on. I will tell you from personal experience, women get very suspect. They start wondering, why is he overextending himself? This doesn't feel authentic to me. And so you got to really figure out if some of the habits that you have, are you being your authentic self, or are you catering to women? You know, because I've had some people ask me before, like, you know, well, for example, well, you know, if you take a woman out for a dinner date, are you being a simp? And my response is like, not if I'm hungry. Like, if I'm legit hungry and I want to go and I want somebody to be there with me, I'd be like, hey, I know it's the first date. I remember one time I dated a girl, our first date was P.F. Chang's. And I told her, I said, hey, like, I'm hungry for P.F. Chang's, so I'm going to go get P.F. Chang's. If you want to roll, let's do this. It wasn't, hey, oh, princess, I found a great restaurant for you, and I want to make sure I'm going to find the priciest thing I can. Like, there's a difference in tactic. Even some down to like giving women money. If you decide, hey, I want to give you $10 for whatever, you can do that, but it's your attitude going forward. If your attitude is, I'm doing this to try to get something out of you, or I'm hoping this is going to lead towards sex, women can read that, and that's not going to read for them as authentic. Versus, yeah, you can take a woman to an expensive restaurant on her first date, but are you doing it because you like that restaurant? Or are you doing it because you're trying to impress her and score points? Women can tell that, in which point they're going to be, they'll still go for the food, but that doesn't mean it's going to attract them, you know? And so, yeah, just like in sales, there are salespeople that are downright and dirty and are trying to trick people. And those salespeople, they get bad reputations and they don't get to last for a long time, versus a sales guy that's just like, look, I'm over here because you said you wanted some knives. You said you wanted a vacuum cleaner. I'm here to show you the best I got. Hopefully you'll like it because I know that I like it. And that's the thing too, is that ideally you like your product. Like I would not ever sell anything that I didn't like. I loved selling Cutco knives because I thought they were the best knives. They're still the only knives that I use in my entire apartment. You know, I sold the rainbows that I sold back in the day. I have a rainbow. Like I had the stuff that I authentically used and was excited about to show the people that I sold to. So you have to ask yourself, are you excited about you as a dating prospect? Because if you're not excited about you, she's not going to get excited about you. And then you're not going to be able to be authentic because you don't even authentically like yourself. And that's inner work. And that can take time. That can take effort. It can take a coach like me, which if you sign up for a program, I can totally help you with. But suffice to say, get to like yourselves because it's the fastest way to start having better self-esteem and then being able to show women who you authentically are. And hey, newsflash, guys, whether you're a nerdy guy or a suave guy, women will go for all these types of guys if you know how to present yourself in a way that is not only authentic, but shows women that you actually like yourself. Anyway, moving on. Another parallel between dating and sales is that, if you talk too much once you've made the sale, you're probably going to lose the sale. What does this look like? Well, in the sales world, it looks like, hey, so I get to the end of my presentation. Hey, so you want to buy these $1,000 knives? And the prospect is like, sure, I'll go ahead and get them. Oh, thank God, that's so great because you know what? I didn't know if you were going to buy them because, you know, most people only get the $800. Oh, there's an $800 set? You lost a $1,000 sale. So, guys, this is going to be hard, right? When you ask women out on dates, the best thing you could do for yourself, and it's going to be hard, you're going to have to practice this, right? Is to ask for the date that you want and then shut up. I learned to do this in sales where I get to the end of the presentation. I say, so how much? So we showed you the knives, told you the price. So what can we do to get you to be a customer today? And the hardest part was doing what I'm doing now, just staring them in the face, waiting for an answer. And they might start to squirm. Well, I mean, do I want to get them today? I don't. And the hardest thing to do is to not try to interject and say, but I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, or, well, I mean, if you don't want to get those knives, like, you sit there and wait. And so I found the same tactic also works in dating. You ask women for a date. Hey, so I was thinking, you know, of this new restaurant can open this weekend and I would love to take you. Are you free on Tuesday? And you just sit there and you just wait for her to answer. And it's going to be the longest, probably 10 to 15 seconds of your entire life. But I'm going to tell you right now, being able to sit there and wait for her to answer you, it displays so much confidence to a woman. Oftentimes, even a woman that would not have initially said yes will be sold on just. And so you have to learn, again, when to talk and when not to talk. And it may very well be that some of you guys are either talking or texting yourselves out of dates with women that would have actually said yes had you not continued on after you asked for the sale. All right. So remember that, guys. Remember, it's very powerful to be able to ask, whether it's like, so even if it's like through text, you text her, hey, let's go out. And you're like, she didn't respond back right away. It's been 10 minutes. It might take an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. You don't know what she's doing, but you sent your text, you leave it there, and you don't send another text saying, are you still there? I asked you a question. Weren't you going to answer? You send the text, hey, was thinking we're free on Tuesday and Thursday to go out. Let me know if you're free and available. And you leave it at that. Because I tell you now, she's had the experience of guys asking her and then trying to continue to sell themselves. And those guys, unbeknownst to them, talk themselves right out of a date with her. So don't be that guy. Be the guy, much like in sales, you ask for what you want, and then you wait for the answer. And you wait until she gives you an answer. It could take 5 seconds or a minute. You sit there like I'm waiting. It's either gonna be yes or no. Tell me something. But don't say that part out loud, you know. So anyway, okay. Another parallel between dating and sales is that anything that shows a lack of confidence in the product will make the prospect say no. So if I were to go on these Cutco demonstrations and say, yeah, these are the absolute best knives ever, and then they'd be like, are they better than Henkel's, which was their competition? Are they better than Henkel's ones? And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know because I never tried one. And let me test your knife out. Oh, this knife kind of cuts good. So I mean, mine's still good though. Like at that point, if I'm doubting how great this product is, then why would the customer want to buy this product? And the way that you're showing this in your dating world is the way you walk, the way you stand, the way you talk about yourself. All these things are letting a woman know whether you have confidence in yourself or if you don't. All right. And so you got to look at that, because women might have empathy for you and sympathy for you, but empathy and sympathy does not equate with attraction from women. All right. So you guys that are on dates, like, my last girl, she just dumped me for whatever reason. All the girls I try to date, they just treat me so wrong. You're saying that in an attempt to get her to treat you better. And she's going to be like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And then never talk to you again. Because again, just giving that display, it doesn't show confidence. You slouching over in your seat like this doesn't show confidence. You walking behind her when you're walking the place, it doesn't show confidence. When you're not confident in yourself, the woman's going to be like, why would I want to buy him as a product if he's not even confident himself as the product? So you got to start learning that. Whatever is causing you to be a slump guy, or a guy that's, maybe talking too fast on dates or whatever, you got to look at why that is and start working on that. And again, that's a lot of the inner work that I go over with you extensively in the Introvert Dating Success Coaching Program, because I used to go through the same thing. I was very much like a guy that I could get a date, and then I'd be on the date the whole time thinking, she doesn't really want me. I can't think of a conversation and talk about, she's probably having a bad time. And what that does subconsciously is it projects to women, and women can pick up on these kind of things subconsciously way better than we can. So we don't think we're showing ourselves in a non-confident light, but that's all the energy she's picking up from us. And therefore, that's all she's going to feel. And it's not going to make her sold on you as a potential dating prospect. Let's see, another parallel between dating and sales. I said this earlier, but knowing when to talk and when to be silent and patient is powerful. But this is especially true for you guys that are over texting. You're over communicating. In sales, you want to say just enough so the prospect gets an understanding of why your product is great and nothing more. The more you try to explain to a prospect why your product is so great, that starts to make them think, he's saying a lot. Why is he trying to push this so hard? What's he not telling me? And so you have to know when it's best to try to say things. And that's on a date, when to listen versus when to talk. Through texting, know when you should reach out, i.e. when you're asking for a date, versus when not to reach out, i.e. anytime else. Like, these are all important things to know, all right? Also to that point is that being patient is powerful and not talking is powerful. And so that means also in between dates, you should not be having all this communication. There are times during a date where it might go silent for a little bit and you're thinking, it's too silent. I got to think of something to say. Those are the moments where, again, if you're confident in that silence, it's powerful to women, because then they become the ones that are like, oh, he's just, okay, I got to think something to impress him to say. Like, let them be the ones that are in that anxious area of the dating aspect of the world, okay? You cannot be there, all right? But again, yeah, very, very important is that sometimes not saying things and not communicating are the best things you can do to attract that woman in front of you, all right? Because what you don't want to do, again, is talk a woman out of wanting to see you or talk to you. So something to consider. Another parallel between dating and sales is that it's very important here, okay? Persistence is key. Now, you might be thinking after all that I've said, but Harry, haven't you said you shouldn't be like chasing after women or like trying to be there too much than that? So we're not talking about that level of persistence, right? We're talking about being persistent and making the right moves, i.e., yes, if you ask her on a date and she says yes to it, you take her out, you want to be persistent in following along on the program that you're doing in order to try to attract women. So if your plan is to try to call her once a week to get a date, keep doing that. That is a level of persistence that women can like. If you ask her on a date and she cancels or flakes like that, you ask her out one more time after that, and then if she doesn't respond or flakes again, you leave her that freak alone. We're not in the habit of like, you're going to be chasing these women nonstop, and even if she starts to lose interest, I'm going to keep texting her and calling her. I'm not talking about that in terms of persistence. But I am talking about is the exercise and the drive to learn women, to grow, and to eventually land someone. So you ask a woman on a date, take her out, have a good time. You ask her out again, she says no. You ask her out one more time, she says she can't go, or what is that, right? So now the persistence part is, okay, that's one prospect, didn't work out, on to the next. In sales, when I would go to his house and sell somebody, I'd say, hey, give me like 10 referrals. I need 10 referrals. And then I would call each of those referrals. Hey, can I come to your house to do the presentation? No, I'm not interested. Okay, hang up. Next one. Hey, can I come to your house to like do a presentation? Oh, I'm free this day. Okay, great. Boom. Next one. Hey, so I'm persistent in the pursuit of eventually getting a prospect that I want to sell to that's going to buy. In the dating world, I'm persistent in putting myself out there, whether it's through dating apps, whether it's having friends hook me up, whether it's going to various events, but I'm persistent in my goal to meet more women, interact with more women so I get an idea of the ebb and flow of how conversations go with them. And then also I'm persistent in my learning about what they want and about putting myself out there to have more practice dates to where I can eventually get a woman that I'm in a relationship with, right? So that's where the persistence part comes in, because a lot of the persistence part is going to be about you being able to put yourself through enough practices with women to where this stuff will not offend you. Like if you ask them out and they say no, you won't be bugged by it because you've gone through this so many times being persistent that you just know that no leads towards eventually yes, you know? So that's why I say, that's why those of you guys that watch these shows on a weekly basis or check out my videos or do my programs, like that's you being persistent in your knowledge of how women function so you can eventually land a woman that's going to work for you. And so I commend you, by the way, for that, because I know it's Saturday night, y'all could be at the club, y'all could be doing whatever, but you decided to watch this. You're being very persistent right now in your knowledge of getting to know women, and that helps you not only in the sales world, but also in the dating world. So kudos to you. A few more here. Oh, two more. Okay. This is a very important way that dating and sales are related, is that you must always be willing to walk away from a bad customer or prospect or a customer that is not interested. So let's say I talk to somebody on the street and I'm like, hey, so I'm selling knives and there are these really, really great knives. I would love to be able to come to your house and give you a full demonstration of these knives. If they say to me, no, thanks, I'm not interested, it is not now my job to try to sit there for another 30 minutes and convince them about why they need to let me in their house to sell the knives and how great the knives actually are and how they're doing a disservice to the knives and like what other knives do they have right now that probably aren't as good as the knives that I have, blah, 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 blah. Now, you're probably watching this and thinking, Harry, that's stupid. Why would anybody do that with some knives? But men do it all the time with women. You go up to a woman in the club, hey, beautiful, so, I was thinking maybe you should like get on the dance floor. No, thanks, I'm not interested. Oh, why would you dance with me? Oh, you women are all the same. Why don't you? Or I'm a nice guy, really, I swear, blah, blah. What are you doing? What are you doing? What you're doing is you're thinking, well, the amount of women I'm able to get with her is limited, and so I have to have this one. And so if I ask her to dance with me or ask her for a date and she says no, maybe she's not seeing it, or I just need to sell myself harder. You do not need to sell yourself harder. What you need to do is get an abundant mindset that says, if she doesn't want to date me, that's her prerogative. She's in her full right to not want to talk to me. I'm going to go talk to one of her friends or somebody else is here. I'm going to swipe. She didn't swipe left on me, or she swiped left on me instead of right. So I'm going to talk to somebody else on this dating app. Like, ultimately, guy, you don't want to be obsessed with any particular outcome. So I tell you guys, it is important to become indifferent, because part of being indifferent is knowing that one no is not going to ruin your day. One woman deciding she wanted to flake on a date last minute isn't going to wreck your entire evening. Like, women of their own accord can decide that they want you as a potential or not. In other words, if you as the product, they're going to see you and say, I'll try that out, or I don't want to try that out. But this is why when you get out of being so emotional about dating, when you start trying to think of it as like flowery romantic and you start to be more analytical, you'll just think, okay, well, she was one prospect that I tried today. You know what? She didn't want me. Okay, cool. As part of the dating process, I'll probably have to go through like asking out 15 women to get one yes. If those are the numbers, let's go ahead and do it. And you won't be so hurt by it, or you won't take it to your ego. Oh, a woman didn't choose me today. Oh my God. Like, that's what I'm trying to get you guys to see, is that ultimately, if a prospect doesn't want you, or if it's a bad prospect, then it's totally fine if you don't ever get with them. I've had guys before that have hit me up to ask me about trying to get with a potential woman, and then I'll ask for like, okay, what are her stats? Oh, well, she lives at home and she did drugs for a while and she's got like 5 kids and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, why would you consider that as a prospect? If I'm doing sales, right, and I ask somebody about, they want to buy these knives, and they're like, well, I don't really cook, but sure, give me the demonstration. Why would I go do the demonstration to somebody that doesn't want to use knives in the kitchen? Like, that's a dumb thing to do. And yet again, guys will do it all the time. Oh, this girl said that she doesn't date she doesn't date short guys. I'm a short guy. I'm going to go talk to her. Dude, what are you doing? Like, save yourself the energy and time for women that would actually want to talk to you. They are out there. I know some of you guys, whether you're in small towns or big towns, or you think there's no prospects, there are women out there right now that will date you as you are. For you to come up against one that doesn't want to date you, they've done you a favor by telling you, for one, because a lot of women aren't upfront like that, but also you now don't have to waste your time trying to convince this person to date you. But if you aren't doing that, then you're wasting your time that you could be spending with other people, and it's just not worth it, you know? And finally, a very, very important way that dating and sales are related is that at the end of the day, in order to get what you want, you have to ask for the order. And what I found in my practice is that there are too many guys out there that are not asking for the order. These are the guys that like get on dating apps and they match with a woman and just talk to her for 2 to 3 weeks thinking, well, if she wants to go out with me, she'll eventually say something. Now, I tell you guys that after 2 to 3 months, it's the woman's job to come to you and say, hey, what are we, blah, 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 right? But in the early stages of dating, it is your job to ask her to see you so that way you guys can start off this path towards eventually landing in a relationship. And so closed mouths don't get fed. Women want to see that you are bold enough and daring enough to not be afraid of her and to ask for what you want. And this goes in all realms. This goes in asking her for a date. This goes into getting a kiss from her. This goes into trying to get a hookup with her. Like, these are the situations where you have to ask for the order. Now, for the other ones, you're not going to ask verbally for a kiss and verbally for a hookup. Like, you can do that stuff in ways that indicate that you want these things to happen, but you're still putting the moves forth that let her know, oh, this is his way and action-wise to say, I want to do some stuff, right? But yeah, if you are relying on her to solely give you not only give you all the signals, but then also say, oh, and by the way, I want to go on a date with you, then you are not going to get as many women to date you as you could possibly get. You know, and again, personal experience, but also in the sales realm, you know, if I get to the end of a sale, I done show this woman a bunch of great knives and a bunch of great vacuums and this and that. I'll tell her all the features of this and that. I get to the end of it and say, so those are the knives. Well, am I going to wait there for her to be like, they look great, so can I buy some? That's never going to happen. I got to be like, so these are the knives. So what set would you like to get? Would you like to get the small set here or the bigger set? What would be best for you? But either way, I got to ask for that order. So same thing with women. You meet a woman at a party, have a good banter with her. At the end of that, you better be doing something like, hey, it's great getting to know you. Hey, you know what? Let me get your number. Or you meet a girl online. This has been a fun conversation. Hey, let's go on a date. You got to ask for the order. And again, as I said before, you got to be indifferent. You're going to either get a yes or maybe, which is a no or no. But basically, you're going to get one or two answers, right? And wherever the answer is, you cannot be butthurt by it. But you got to at least ask for the order, you know? So hopefully this gives you guys a better vision and idea of why it's good to think about dating and sales in the same realm. Because a lot of the things that work well in sales work well in dating, you know, knowing how to prospect better, knowing the right kinds of questions to ask, being willing to not talk and let a person in front of you like think out if what they're trying to consider in terms of dating you is going to be a good thing. You know, these kinds of things are immensely beneficial. And also, more importantly, also like knowing how to brand yourself and being able to authentically show the best parts of yourself on these dates. I think so many guys get caught up in the whole, you know, women want a guy that's honest with them, that you want to go on a date and show her all your flaws. It's okay to have flaws, and it's okay that she gets to know them at some point. But in the dating process, think about it like if I go to buy a car, right? Let's say I'm going to go to a car salesman's going to be like, oh, hey, so this car here, it's got X, Y, this, and that. They're not going to be like, oh, but it kind of steers weird a little bit. Here's and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're not going to do that. They're going to be like, hey, take it for a test ride. I can then drive the car and find out on my own, oh, this turns weird. Oh, the AC is a little too cold or whatever. But like, they're not going to pitch that out there because it's my job as the person buying it to feel out that stuff. It's not their job to try to call it out. So the same is true for dating. Like, you have flaws. Great. Let her figure them out down the line, because it may be that a flaw that you think is a big flaw, she doesn't even notice. You know, I talk fast, for example. Most women that I've dated have not minded that I talk fast. But if I were to be like, yeah, I know I talk kind of fast, and, you know, I wish I could stop it, but I can't, and I hope it doesn't, like, I would lose out. So you just got to know, like, in terms of selling yourself to women, you're trying to sell the best version of yourself that you can possibly do. And you got to know that when you ask, someone's going to say yes, Some are going to say no, but you ask for the order. You show them the best show that you can, i.e. you show off the product, i.e. you, the best way you know how. And then at the end of the day, they're going to either choose to continue on with that product, you, or they're going to say like, this one's not for me. I think there's a better product out there for me. You don't take it personally. You move on to somebody else. All right. So hopefully, guys, this gives you just a different angle and a way to consider dating out there in a way that's not so personal and not so emotional and not so romanticized, right? Like if you treat it as a tactile sales equivalent, then you will be less emotional in the process, which means you'll have your analytical hat on and you won't be persuaded by like their boobs and their butts, which is what they're trying to sell us, by the way, by all the outfits that they're wearing. Just saying. So hopefully it helps you out. All right. We have some comments in here. Hold on a second. I'm looking at I'm going back in the chat now to see what things were said here. Kuhlman, you might want to sign up for a session, dude, because I mean, you have a lot of questions, which I love answering on the show. But like, I could definitely help you with a deeper dive of this stuff and get your mind frame and dating situation like figured out a lot faster with the personal coaching sessions. Just putting that out there. But I got time tonight, so let's go through the questions. All right, so let's see. Let's get into. Is it so? First question here is it true that women can detect little lies? I tend to do it a lot. I mean, you shouldn't be doing it a lot, but the reality is, it's weird because like women do go on dates very hopeful, and they go on dates thinking that okay, this even though the last guy lied to me, I really want to believe that this guy that's in front of me is not going to do that. And so because they're going on dates with such hope, they might not initially be trying to detect any kind of lies you're telling. But that said, as a person that has, I've been through earlier in my dating life where like I was trying to present myself in a way that women would like, even if it meant hiding parts of myself that they were going to find out about eventually later anyway, And so I found in the long run that that's a disservice to women and it's not fair. But I also find that if you're doing those little lies, that means that on some level, there's levels of shame about whatever it is that you're lying about that you maybe weren't aware were actually there. And so to that, I would say, figure out why it is you feel the need to lie about those things and become either fix them so they're not things you do anymore, or become okay with whatever things you're lying about are. So that way you don't have to walk around in your head wondering, did she catch my lie? Did she catch what I'm doing a lie? Because then that's not fair to you also to have to always be stressed about having to keep up with the lies you're trying to tell to people, Let's see. Okay, another question in the chat. Question goes, Coach, you mentioned vetting. What are the main ones we should look for on the first date? I heard one is daddy issues. Which are the other big ones we should look for? Oh God, daddy issues are definitely big. Like if a woman has a bad relationship with her dad, I can assure you it's going to project onto you. Like, cause that's her earliest situation with a man in her life. And if whatever reason she got abused by that man or he did things where he wasn't trustworthy, then that's going to parlay over into her dating life where she's looking at you at some point and you're trying to come to her to tell her something and she's thinking you're lying to her or you're potentially going to try to abuse her in some way. Like those women I find I feel bad for them. I feel bad that they've gone through that situation. I've just also found that I've been that guy that tried to date women like that. It does not work out very well. They're constantly nerve-wracked and anxious, and it's not worth your time, So I would say that that's not good either. But aside from that particular thing in terms of vetting, like you got to look at things like simple stuff like how are they treating the servers? If you go to a restaurant, see how they're treating their servers, how they talk about them. You can ask them questions about their day-to-day lives or who their best friends are or whatever, and see the kind of stories they tell about them. If they're like, kind of slightly dissing them versus like praising them up. You can see in the course of the conversation if she's interrupting you. Because, as much as guys get a bad rep for not having a good communication style, the reality is I have found that if you as a guy are a great communicator, you get to learn that there are a lot of women out there that also cannot communicate very well. And so if she's interrupting you or she's saying you guys have like a disagreement about something you have a differing opinion about something, and then she gets like really mad that your opinion isn't her opinion or looks at you some kind of way like, oh my God, like, a good one now would be like, like OJ just died. He died. Like, but I don't think he did it. What? How could you? That could be a whole conversation piece. If she gets mad and yells at you, you've dodged the bullet, And so just kind of things like that. Because the first date's really just going to be like, ideally it's short, 45 minutes to 90 minutes tops, just kind of get to know each other. You want to see if she has a good sense of humor, if she's able to laugh at certain things, because if a woman's hard pressed to laugh, I can assure you she's not going to be a joy to be around. And also, women that laugh at your jokes are typically already feeling some kind of levity of like for you, which is always a good thing, right? So look out for those kind of things. Ultimately, you want a woman that's going to have a good attitude, can go with the flow. You could definitely try the check test, where it's like the check gets delivered and she starts kind of playing with her purse if she's going to pay. Spoiler, they're probably not going to pay. But the fact that she's acting like she might potentially pay means that she's a person that down the road will probably pay for some stuff for you. So just those are a few things that you can do to start trying to test that stuff out early on, you know? Let's see. Oh, somebody says, it's interesting hearing you make a link between sales and dating. I was thinking similarly a while ago and was looking to make the link too. Yeah, like I said, and that's one of the things that, again, some people get, you know what I found? Just a sidebar conversation. Because as a guy, I have found that for us, at least I'll speak for me. So other guys, they can agree to disagree in the chats, right? But I have found that for me to get a concept, it's good for me to compare it to another concept, right? And so I find that sometimes explaining that to women, because I'm comparing these two different things, that to them doesn't seem like they go together. The response is, well, that's not a thing. Like I did the thing on TikTok where I said dating is very much like sales. And their response is like, but sales is different because sales isn't a human. And how dare you? At that point, this is why I don't coach women, because I have found, this is just generality, because there are some women out there that I've been able to help that listen to me, but I've just found that like in terms of how I try to describe things, it doesn't always gel with them. And I'm like, but the advice isn't for you, it's for guys, and guys will get when I'm trying to make these comparisons of things that to them seems like it's just concrete like stuff, but they'll be able to get it better when it's not coming from an emotional context. And I think that's what men don't get, is that for men, trying to explain a concept to a guy from an emotional concept, it doesn't work nearly as well as coming into them from an analytical concept where they can say, oh, so you're saying X and Y equals Z because of this. Okay, I get that now. Versus, well, you should do X because the emotions the woman's going to feel is Y. Like men, I have found based on coaching them, it doesn't work as well for them to explain it from that angle. So when Doc Love started talking about the sales thing, I was like, I get it. Like I've done sales. And you're saying this thing is like this. And so just like over here dating, I now know how to put this where I'm going to get the emotional response I want from her in a more authentic way to her based on doing this thing that has no emotion to it, you know? So I'm glad that you were able to get the idea of that. Question in the chat. Why are some women into lots of texting while others are just not interested in texting but do like to go out? Which type would you go for? Well, that is a lie. And I'll tell you why. Because you're basing this off of when you meet a woman in the beginning, oftentimes the texting is hot and heavy, right? It's like almost nonstop. But if you notice, even women that like to text a lot, it'll start to die down. Where does that come from? That comes from the guy buying into the lie that we are made to believe that women want this kind of texting all the time. You being new stimuli to her is going to hype her up for texting. And I have found that you can actually keep up that level of texting if you as the guy are not trying to initiate text all the time. Now, guys will feel some kind of way about that, and sometimes women will too. So I'm going to stress, I always say initiate. If she hits you up every single day and she's the one initiating more than you, it's totally fine to then to then respond back. But I found as a guy, if I'm the one every day, early in the morning, good morning, beautiful, next day, hey, how's your day going, blah, blah, that I'm constantly initiating, that's when the woman's desire to want to be the one to reach out starts to die down. So it's not a matter of some women like to text more than others. It's a matter of you as the guy, when you start texting too much, whatever like they have for texting is going to be lost. But again, this also speaks to more often than not, you don't lose points for not texting a woman too much. Because let's say, worst case scenario, you're not texting her enough. She'll come to you and say, hey, I noticed you don't text me a whole lot. What's going on? Again, like I said earlier, that's a positive sign, but she's not docking points from you for not doing that. She's expressing that she has so much like for you that she wish it were more. But you have to also look at, does the thing a woman is saying that she wants actually what she needs? I've had plenty of women that I dated say, hey, so like it would be cool. I want you to text more. And the one or two times that I acquiesced to that, I would start texting more. It didn't make them respond to me more. It made them respond to me less. So they're saying they want me to text more. I'm texting more, and now they're texting me back less to where I would just stop doing it, and then it gets back to normal. So here's what I say, is that ultimately your texting ratio should always be three initiations to 1. So for every 3 times she initiates texting, like let's say brand new day, right? She sends the first text. Next day, she sends the first text. Next day, she sends the first text. Day 4, you send the first text. It should be a 3-to-1 ratio because women feel things 3 times more than guys are intending. If you try to match up her level of texting, where it's like, oh, we're texting 50-50, it feels to her like you're texting 150% versus 50%. Versus you text her 1 to 3, your 1 time is 33% to her. Was that 3 times before? Sorry, you're 25% to her, 75%. To her, it feels like 75%, So that's how I measure that out. But regardless, ultimately, I'm not letting how a woman texts me determine how I text her. I text the way I text. I do 3-to-1. I only text for dates. And if she doesn't like that, my question to her is always like, are we still going out on dates? Well, yeah. Am I taking you to some good places? Well, yeah. We having good hookups? Well, yeah. Do you feel like I emotionally get you? Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So you're saying that of all the things, the one thing I'm not doing right is texting you as much as you want me to, right? But all the other things are great. Yeah. So then is texting really a big deal? I guess not. Boom. Because does she want me to text her on and off for 3 or 4 hours out of the day? Or does she want to see me in person where we can see each other, feel each other, touch each other, hear each other? That is the better simulation. So this is why I say you can't buy into the lie. Even if you heard women say, I need a guy to text more, because here's the thing. Women are going to say things from moment to moment that feel right, even if they're wrong. And so a woman might feel like, I need to hear from this guy more, but she's mistaking wanting an interaction with this guy from having to hear from him by text all the time. And moment to moment, I have found if I go for the lie of trying to text her nonstop, there's going to be a point where she's like, okay, I don't feel like I need to hear from him now. And I'm going to text again. Oh, it's too late. I texted too much. Now it's too late. So you don't lose points for texting less, is what I'm saying. Anyway, person here says, I like the name Run From Hookups. This person says, personally, I used to be into texting mostly because I just had a lot to learn and I wasn't quite in a place in my life that I could fully date. Now, a lot of things about my approach are changing fast. So you say, change up everything, figure blah, blah, blah. One of them, I don't care about the height thing. Okay. Oh, so this is a woman. Awesome. So she says, I'm one of them. I don't care about height. Definitely, even as a woman, I implement a lot of tips like these in my own way. I say, don't get so attached to the outcome. Plenty of fish in the ocean. And now they're having a little conversation in the chat here. Let's see. Oh, question here. All right. So we got a question in the chat. And the question goes, hey, coach, I may be in the autism spectrum. Congratulations. Which can literally blind us in the dating market. Any experience or suggestions? So I say, congratulations. We just found out that I'll say a close person or relative of mine that is young in stature. We just found out they were also autistic. And traditionally autistic people tend to be like, they get really good and focused to like one particular thing and then make like all the money. So not that I'm saying these people are necessarily on the spectrum, but picture your like Mark Zuckerbergs, picture your Elon Musk type, like people that like, they just all they focus on is cars, all focus on is computers, and then they end up getting all the monies, So that's why I'm saying congratulations. Obviously, it's something serious that you got to deal with, but realistically, we all have stuff that we deal with in our lifetime. I would say this, as a person, if you are hypothetically on the autism spectrum, then it definitely behooves you to learn the exact blueprint that will be beneficial to you being able to date. Because I'll tell you, I don't believe I'm on the autistic spectrum. I don't know. But I found just in my personal life, as me personally being like an analytical person, I found that, again, the emotions of dating oftentimes trip me up. Like having to know the ins and outs of why, when I said this thing, this woman got offended, or why I did this action, she got turned off, or whatever. It got very confusing and annoying. And so I found for me personally that part of the reason I put together the Introvert Dating Success Coaching Academy is that I actually found a consistent process that worked to be able to attract women, approach them, get dates, get them to say yes to dates, and then be able to consistently, like week after week, take them out, know what conversations to have, know when conversations were too soon versus when to have them at the right time. I got to learn like the exact things women are feeling at any given moment during the 2 or 3 month dating process, to where I didn't have to now think about where a woman was in her attraction level, or think about what she's feeling about me based on if she texts me today or not. Like I just knew, And so I find that, again, by taking the the romantic and emotional side out of the dating process for me, it resulted in me being able to show them more romance simply by understanding how they function, being a better listener, knowing when to compliment them, when to not, also the stuff. It made it a better process for them. And all I care about in the dating world, in the dating process for you specifically, is are you doing the things that make them comfortable? And I found early on, without having a blueprint to date, I did not. And so once I had a blueprint and I understood the mechanics behind why the things I was now doing was going to be more comfortable to women than it was before, then I was able to test that out quite a few times and see if it works. I could then put together a program that would hopefully work for other guys. And so far, it has. I've had guys that I've helped get into relationships, get full-on marriages because of it. And it's simply just, again, taking the blinders off of not being aware. And so if you have autism, the lie is you're gonna go out there and think, okay, crap, like I got to do all this stuff that I'm not good at emotions. And then kind of find out women don't want us to be all that emotional. They want us to understand their emotions and not judge them for their emotions. Damn, if we have emotions, don't buy into the lie. Well, I want a guy that's going to cry and be able to. They don't want that, because we're push comes to shove. If something happens, they don't want a guy that's going to be a sniveling idiot. So you can take that part out and then learn an analytical process of dating that, again, is going to be beneficial to you because you won't ever be lost about what's going on. The one downside I will say is that it can feel at times, at the point that I learned the exact process of how dating should work to where I can get to a relationship, like if I end up single, I can go back out there and be like, oh, I know the next 10 things I got to do to get into a relationship. It does take a level of, like, it's amazing. Like, you wouldn't think this, right? But like, it's almost like when you don't know, there's a level of excitement of like, I don't know what the next move to make is, so I got to figure it out. So knowing what to do is like, you've beaten Mario 1. You found all the warp zones. You found how to get to level 8 in Bowser really, really fast. And you can now do that every time you play the game. It's like, I mean, I can do it, but it's just not as exciting. But again, dating for you should not be exciting. It should be a means to an end to land in a relationship with a really great girl. And then you can do all the exciting stuff once you get in the relationship. But the dating process should not be this thing where it's like, it just happens. Every time something just happens, the girl doesn't feel like you know how to do anything with women, and they feel unsafe, and they feel like you don't get them. And then they go to another guy that's like, oh, he knows exactly what he's doing, even if he's a toxic guy, So I would say for you, learn a process. Now, obviously, I teach a great process that I feel works. It's a full-on blueprint. But in my program, I also talk about, maybe some of the challenges that you're having in terms of like being able to read women properly, or not knowing why they say this thing but mean this thing over here. Like, I go into all those kind of things also, because even getting to understand how women function, whether you have autism or not, I can assure you, it's still a crap show to figure that shit out. But you can get through it a lot easier if you have somebody to guide you through that, to be able to pinpoint out things that you maybe hadn't had noticed or observed before, So I would say check out the program at the website. You have nothing to lose by checking it out, but like, you have a lot to gain once you get this stuff under control. So hopefully that helps you out. Let's see. In terms of the I'm still doing the photo booth stuff, so I got some stuff that's coming up in May. So thanks for asking about that. I'm still setting up things. I still got my machine, so we have some good things going. I've connected with a couple of sororities and fraternities that I can start going to events for. So you'll say, again, building a business. I mean, it's funny, like building a business, that's a new process. I mean, outside of, I built this one up, but like doing an outside business that's different, it's like it's all these new things that I have to learn, which is exciting. It's exciting to have to learn the ins and outs of like how do you sell people in your machine, what things do they want at these parties and all this other stuff. So it's been quite the journey, but it is what it is, So we're still kicking and still thriving right now. But thanks for asking. Let's see. Pre-chat for day. Okay, we got a question in the chat, and the question goes, can compatibility be assessed in a pre-chat before the in-person first date? And can compatibility come with time? So these are two different questions. So I'll answer the first one first. So can compatibility be assessed in a pre-chat? The goal, the goal of a chat, like if you're meeting them online, Facebook, a dating app, whatever, is to just get the date. Like, ultimately, you're trying to see if you can get the date. Now, if you're doing this online dating, you go to their profile, you're going to see their pictures, you're going to either read their bio or read the prompts that they put up. You should start to get an idea of like, just if you're into some of the stuff that they mentioned, or into the person you're looking at, or some stuff they have in their pictures, right? So beyond that, you have conversations. In the conversations, you're just trying to assess the person enough to get the date. Like I'll ask you a question, hey, where are you from? Or like, what are you into, this and that? But like, my goal is to like get on the date to be able to do all that stuff, right? The other thing too is this, is that I think a lot of guys, because I've had some guys say things like, well, I want to go from the dating app to getting their phone number to having a video chat. And for me, I genuinely believe that you need to get as much practice as you can with women in person. And I think trying to have all these conversations and all these video meetups before you see the person in person, it robs you of being able to practice doing in-person dates. Because what's more important than if you're able to determine compatibility in a conversation is how you are on dates. And the only way you get better at dates is if you meet with women in person to practice conversations, to practice opening their doors, to practice listening, to practice being in an environment where you have to be in front of a person and be able to have a conversation without getting nervous. And I think too many guys are honestly taking the chicken way out. They end up talking to women for 2 or 3 weeks on end, hoping that eventually whatever conversation we have is going to allow me to be able to read that she has feelings. You can only read so much through an electronic device. Like all these words on this phone are like text and stuff, and they're little digits. And we try to do LOLs and emojis. None of that stuff is giving authentic emotion behind the situation. The only way you get that is to meet the person in person. Now you could argue, but wouldn't a phone call do the same thing? Wouldn't a video chat do the same thing? And again, I want to stress, you need practice meeting with women in person, because the only way to start getting an idea of compatibility is when you guys meet up. Do you like the way she smells? Do you like how her hair looks? Do you like the way that she sounds? These are all things you're not going to get. And even if you get them through phone or through video, you're still not going to be able to you're not going to be able to get smell at all, at least not yet. But you won't be able to touch her. You won't be able to really interact with her in an environment where you can see her, how she is in that environment, how is she with other people, how is she when she eats her food. Like you need to experience all of that to really accelerate how well you're going to do in the dating world. And so to that, I say that you can assess a small bit of, are there things that we seemingly have in common? But even people that have stuff in common, that doesn't mean that she's going to feel like you guys are compatible to date. Oh, I can date somebody. Oh, you have a podcast too? That's amazing. Oh my God, you like to wear a shirt like me? That's amazing. That doesn't mean we're going to get along in a relationship. There are plenty of people that have almost nothing in common with the person that they're with, and they've been married 20, 30 years. Also, he says, he asked, can compatibility come with time? The reality is, yes. I've heard plenty of stories where it's like a woman will say, like, that first date, I didn't really like him, or I met him at this party, I thought he was just so cocky and arrogant, I didn't really blah, 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 blah. And it can come over time, yes. But even with that, because I did a whole show where I talked about how, people that started as friends, apparently there's a high percentage of people that start off as friends and then end up in a relationship. But on average, it takes 18 to 21 months. And then when that happens, usually if it's going to work out, the woman's got to be the one to come to the guy, like I talk about all the time, and be like, hey, so I'm feeling you. Or, hey, so we've been friends for a while, but could we be something more? That's more often than not how that's going to work out. So basically, as a guy, you're probably going to feel the compatibility a lot faster. She needs to be the one to feel that there's also compatibility here in order for this to be taken to the next level. And that could take a bit of time around you. I have some friends that were friends in high school, and they were friends for 3 years before she started crushing on him and then decided to do some stuff, right? So, but that whole time that they were friends, they were trying to feel if they were compatible or not, and that's totally fine. But suffice to say that she had to go to him at some point to let that stuff start popping off. And so it can take time. Sometimes a woman just needs to be able to see you in different environments, or she needs to start realizing that, oh, you have other prospects out there. Does she want to risk losing you to one of those other prospects? And sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't. But you as a guy should not be relying on that to happen, which is why I tell you guys, you should be dating 2 or 3 women to start, because even if you're feeling compatibility with this one, we need to make sure that she gets there too. And it may not. So while she's figuring that stuff out, you go see who else you're compatible with, and then hope to God that she becomes compatible, at which point you can cut these girls off over here, or you might find, surprise, surprise, one of these other girls you're more compatible with, So that's just how it kind of plays out. Let's see. Questions. One more time. He said, the reason I ask is because I get the date, and then when I meet her and I feel disappointed, that's why I quit online dating and prefer meeting people in person. I mean, it's a crapshoot. Part of my introvert dating success coaching program, we have a whole section where I do a call like once a week for 12 weeks. And so one of those weeks is all about like how to approach women, including how to do that in the online dating space, because how you set up your pictures and your bio, it really will help. The way that, again, treat yourself like a product. The way that you're presenting yourself to the world is going to determine the kind of women that want to match with you. So if you find you're getting a lot of crappy matches, chances are you probably have a crappy profile, or at least not one that's going to make the women that see that profile that you want think, oh, we get along together very well. I did very well on online dating, but that's because I knew how to set up all my stuff in a way that presented me in an angle that more women were going to find attractive. And again, it was an authentic angle, but I knew the kind of pictures to show, which ones to steer clear from. I knew what prompts. I was on Hinge. I knew what prompts to use that would invoke conversations and make women actually reach out to me first for conversations. Like, if you know how to do those things, then your efforts on online become a lot better. And then once you actually get them to match, it's knowing the kind of conversations to have, what kind of things to figure out during that conversation, and then knowing how to plan a first date that's going to result in her building more feelings with you. And most guys don't know how to do that, which is why I teach it, because then you'll know it, you know? Let's see. Oh, I love questions from women. Thank you for asking. Okay, so we have a question. Well, we have a, okay, so we have a two-parter here. So this woman in the chat says, I'd want, especially if we meet online, a man who can be patient enough for me to feel comfortable enough and little feel for what he's like. Then I may be open to meeting. I'm communicative though. And so here's the thing. What I tell guys is that, yes, on a dating app, I'll say this. I've had the experience before of being able to literally send a woman a message that says, hey, how you doing? And then the next message is like, we should go out. And I've had that be successful a few times, right? But more often than not, I found that it does take some time. So I tell men this, I say, on average, this is just an average I discovered, it takes between 5 to 10 messages before a woman is at least open to the idea of meeting up with you. Like, and it's like, I send a message, she sends a message. Each one of us is sending a message like 5 to 10 times individually before I'll say, hey, let's meet up, you know? And there's a way that I transition into asking for that in a way that's comfortable for women, which again, I teach in my program, you know, because you don't want to just go from like talk, let's go out. Like, there is a smooth transition and a couple of words you got to say to make women feel comfortable with that I just learned how to do. So just a little preview for the program. But if I say, yeah, but here's the thing, I tell men, it'll take a long time. Like, it could be 5 to 10 messages over the span of like 2 or 3 days. But what most men I find do is they just talk and talk and talk. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the woman watching this, right? I have found more often than not, women do not want to be the ones to ask for the date. I found that I got to be the one that initiates the conversation about going out someplace. And then when I do, I'm initiating conversation about meeting in public. I never, ever did there was one time where I said, hey, come to my place. And it was New Year's Eve. It was a New Year's Eve date. I was like, hey, you're single, I'm single. I don't want to be alone for New Year's. Let's go out. I said, come to my place. I'll make some food for us and we'll go out. And she agreed. She came to my place. We ate food and then we left my apartment. I only do that one time, but most of the time I'm asking for in public dates with women, but it doesn't take 4, 5, 6 weeks. It literally takes like 2 or 3 days at most before most women are like, okay, I've talked to him enough. He seems sane. And he's suggesting an in public place. This will be fine. Now, that said, if you've talked that long and she's like, I don't know, my thought's always like, it's been 2 to 3 days and I'm suggesting we meet in public. At that point, I'm questioning either A, if they're a bot, or B, if they're in this for the attention. Either way, if they say they don't meet up, I'll say, okay, fine. I'll still continue to talk because there's nothing that I don't get hurt for just talking to somebody, right? But I'm also talking to other prospects now, because I can assure you, for every one woman that's like, well, I don't want to go out, let's keep texting, there are like 3 or 4 others that are on my message thing ready for a date. So again, I'm not going to try to push anything. Like, my goal is just to present the product. Hey, I want to meet you out. They say no, it is what it is. I got other people to talk to. I'm not going to spend all day, please, why would you meet up with me? I think why am I doing that? Because that's energy I can be spending on 3 other chicks that want to say yes to a date, So, well, thank you for that comment. So in the second one, this comment from a woman, she says, what do you think about a guy who is wearing his trauma on his sleeves? Like saying, women use me for my money. You're not going to do that, right? In like the first chat or two. It puts me off. Listen to this, guys. It puts me off personally makes me feel like he's putting me on the defensive and will project it onto me or something. Spoiler, he will. But for the guys watching this, listen to what she just said, right? She does not want a guy that is wearing trauma on his sleeve and saying things like, women use me. I talked about this earlier in the show about how like guys will go on dates and then in an attempt to, because I'll tell you, this is why guys are doing that, right? Guys think that in order to get the woman in front of them, to not treat them like the last woman did, that he needs to tell this new woman all the stuff that he went through so that way she will not do that to him. And I have found that is a terrible plan. It's just like, like if I don't think I've ever done this, but like if I were to go on a date and be like, yeah, so the last girl ghosted me, like we were having a good time dating, and then she decided she just like stopped texting me and stopped calling me, and I just was really hurt by that. And I hope that if you don't like me, I hope you don't try to ghost me. You know what the girl's gonna say? Oh, I would never ghost you. If I didn't like you, I would just straight up tell you that I wouldn't want to see you anymore. And I've had that speech given to me before, and no girl has ever come forth and been like, hey, so I don't want to ghost you, so I'm just going to let you know that I'm not seeing you. I've had literally one girl say to me, like I asked her on a fourth date, she was like, hey, it's been great getting to know you, but I'm just not feeling that connection. I was like, you know what? That's a unicorn right there, because that never happens. I usually get ghosted. But for me to go to every single date and be like, the last girl ghosted me, I hope you don't want to ghost me. Like women aren't going to like suddenly be like, oh, that guy got ghosted. I'm not going to do that. They're going to more be like, why is this guy ruining my buzz? Like women are on these dates to have a good time. They done been to work all day, had to deal with the boss, cranky customers, and all they want to do is go home and take off their work uniform and put on a nice dress, some makeup, some perfume, get their hair done, smell all good for you and stuff like that, put on their best high heels, go on a dress, and go out and have a good time. And you want to trauma dump. You want to get on there. Now I got to tell you about my problems. She done heard from complaining customers all day at work, and now she got to hear about a complaining date. This is why you're losing women, guys, because they don't want to hear that. Yes, you got trauma. You know what? Put it in a box, save it for month 3 when she's the girlfriend and she's more open to hearing about your trauma. But on dates, she does not care about your trauma. She cares, hey, early on, she don't know you. She cares about her having a good time. And are you going to provide her with a good time? And if you're not, you're doing her a disservice. But honestly, guys, you're doing yourself a disservice, because that means you have not gone through the work to not let that trauma trip you up and bring it to everybody's attention. Nobody cares that you've been through trauma. I'm sorry you have to hear that from me personally. I know you care, and your therapist will care. People got their own crap going on, but especially in a dating scenario, she got her own crap going on. You don't want her coming on a date. Oh, my last few boyfriends, blah, 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 blah. And these guys out here ain't worth crap. Huh? You want her to say that in hopes that you're not going to treat her like that? Like, that's a dumb plan. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I tell guys, I don't think guys should be doing that, and that them doing that is a disservice to them, So thank you for bringing that to guys' attention. Anyway, let's see. Other comments here. He says, right, I also care about, is he actually sane and nice to be around? And yeah, guys, let's be real, okay? Trauma dumping does not make you look like a sane guy. It doesn't make you look like a put-together guy. And women already have so much to deal with in terms of like worrying about their safety on a date. She done met you in public, it's great, but that's like, if I walk back to my car, is he gonna stab me? Or is this the guy that's gonna like be cool on the date and then be weird outside the date? Like, they're gonna be worried about all this stuff. You don't help them when you go on a date and trauma dump or talk about how all women are, because like, I'm sorry, it's funny. There's so many guys that like go on dates and talk about, there's a lot of manosphere content out there talking about how like, women are gold diggers and women ain't crap and they just want to use a guy for his money and they only want guys with a certain height and chat and time on this, blah, 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 blah. And keep in mind, I watch some of that stuff because I don't fall for that narrative, but I understand it's out there. And I think it's important as guys to be able to see some of the things that guys are bitter about so you can get an idea of like, okay, these are things to look out for, not, and I'm going to hate on all those women. Like, there are women that are gold diggers. So I just learned, okay, just steer clear from women to do these things, but don't hate on all women. But men will go on dates and then tell women, yeah, because I bet you just want me for my money. And oh, you probably hate on me because of my height and blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, don't bring that to the date. All she's going to see you as is a bitter, angry dude. And you're the fun guy, fun guy. Let's see. Yeah, you're welcome. Let's see, we're almost done here. Let's see. Let's see. I'll be right back. I'm going to fix this light real quick. I'll be right back. I'm going to fix this. In the meantime, feel free to check this out. Hey guys, yep, it's still me here. So if you have been trying to figure out the ins and outs of how to date, it can be very, very challenging, especially if you don't have the proper roadmap to be able to get there. You know, going from dating to getting into a relationship has its own set of problems and issues. And if you're not aware of them, you can ultimately end up not being successful. And that's why I've created the Introvert Dating Success Academy. This is an academy that is designed to help you figure out the ins and outs of how to meet, greet, attract, date, land, and keep the woman of your dreams. You could have a girlfriend within the span of 3 months of meeting somebody if you knew the practical steps to take at each stage, from when you first meet the woman, how to talk to her, all the way up to how to ask her out on a date, the kind of date to take her on, how to get to that first kiss, or something more complex as to how to get in the bedroom, what to do when you're in the bedroom, and even concerning things like when you guys have your first argument, how do you deal with that? What signs can you look for that indicate how she feels about you without you having to ask her? And how can you tell when it's time for you to have the relationship conversation? Well, these are all things that are covered in the Introvert Dating Success Academy. It is a video course. It is 12 videos that are designed to walk you through that entire process, A through Z, step by step, so you can finally land the woman of your dreams. And with that, there are some pretty cool bonuses that come with that as well. Now, if you want to check that out and see what the whole program is about, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and you can click on the programs tab and then click on the section that says Introvert Dating Success Academy and see everything that comes with it. But I promise you guys, this program is based on my personal success and the steps that I've used time and time again to be able to attract women, get with any kind of woman that I want to, and if I decide to, get into relationships. And I believe it can be very helpful for you as well. So go to the website, take a look at it, and I'll be happy to assist you and help you when you join the Introvert Dating Success Academy today. All right, we are back. So got a few more things to answer here, then we'll call it a day. So let's see what we got here. I gotta scroll back up here a little bit. Okay, so we got a question in the chat. Good water. All right, we got a question in the chat. And the question goes, do you think online dating apps rob a man from learning how to talk to women in person because the app allows you to skip the steps that you would actually need to learn in real life to land a date? No, I think if you're using online dating the right way, then you're treating it as a virtual simulator and not necessarily an overly serious app. Like, this is why I tell you guys, like, you know, things like getting on there and talking for 3 or 4 weeks at a time, it's wasted effort. But what you can do is you can actually use online dating apps as a simulator to test out different approaches. Because I found, for example, when I was doing online dating, like some of the approaches or things I would try to use as openers on there, I found would actually translate to working really good in real life as well. To where I could go to a party and be like, oh, what's that opener I used on that one girl on the dating app? I'll try it here. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, shoot, it worked. Oh my God. So if you use dating apps in the right way, they will actually enhance your in-person game, not hinder it. So hopefully that resolves that confusion. Let's see here. Jeez, bro, this chat blew up. Yeah, man, it's been quite a lively chat. You've been just missing out. Let's see here. See, man, trying to correct opportunities. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, nice chatting. Nice chatting word from hookup. Let's see, we got here. Oh my God, that's a lot. Okay. So I guess we have a situation in the chat. So he says, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but after my ex broke up with me, I said we couldn't just be friends. Correct response. Then I changed my mind. Not so good. Then I changed my mind again and said a lot of corny stuff on how I would never be able to like her platonically. Am I cooked, or is there a way to save this? What would you do to recover from this if you were me? Well, to be honest with you, this is one of those times where I think that's actually the correct response. Like, realistically, if you're liking a girl and you know that being friends with her is going to frustrate you, because while you're being friends with her, you're thinking, but I want to be able to like take you out and show you a good time and kiss you and stuff like that, and I can't, then you're in your full right to say, like, you know what? I always phrase it like this, though. I phrase it like, you know, hey, like, you're saying you want a friendship. I think I know I want more than that. So, hey, you know what? Best of luck to you. But if you decide to change your mind, let me know. I'd love to take you out. And I'll leave it at that. And as a man, when you say those kind of things, you have to be very congruent in what you're saying. That means that you say the things that you mean to say, and then you don't falter on that. So if you said, hey, I can't be friends with you platonically because I would want to, do more things than just platonic stuff, then you got to stick to that. And sometimes women will change their mind and say, hey, I really miss you and I want to see you again and blah, blah, blah. And they'll, want to go out and do whatever and you get your way. And sometimes they'd be like, well, he wants me and I'm kind of freaked out by that, so I can't do that. And then they leave you alone. Either way, it all works out. Because I find, real talk, like I said, the girls that I had crushes on 10, 15 years ago, I don't even think about them now. And or they've gotten bigger and changed in various ways that I wouldn't want to deal with. Or especially my age, like you find, like I didn't want kids. A lot of women that I had crushes on, turns out they went on to have kids and they wanted kids. That wouldn't have worked out no matter how we felt about each other, So don't think you're missing out. Just, it is what it is. I do not fundamentally, well, I'll say from experience, I know being friends with a woman that you would want to date is frustrating. And I say, if you're learning the lesson now to not do that, you are well ahead of the curve, because it never ends up being more often than not that the friend actually changes their mind. So don't put yourself in that position to be frustrated, Hopefully it helps you out. Let's see. You think it's possible I could get her back? This is one of those things where you could get her back, but it's not going to be based on anything that you do. Like, learn this lesson early, all right? Doing does not mean that you're doing things effectively to win somebody over. And sometimes the best way for that to happen is to do nothing and let their brains be the ones to convince them to want to be with you. So if this is the case where she broke up or you guys broke up and you want to be with her and she doesn't want to be with you, I'll say this, it's been a year. So I would say it does not hurt you at all to try to ask her for a date. Don't be surprised if she says no to it or does what most women do, which is like, oh, I don't know because I'm busy, or oh, because maybe blah, 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 blah. All those things mean no. Just learn early on that when women say no, it's really going to be a direct no. It's going to be more like a passive version of saying no. That's just how they communicate, because they have found in their dating lives that when they try to be direct with a guy and say, I'm not interested, they can get beat up, unalived, bunch of other stuff. So they're going to say something passively to be able to hope that you accept that excuse enough so they can get the freak out of the way, right? So would you ask her? Should they say yes, or be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. At which point you say, okay, cool. Well, hey, if you change your mind, let me know. And you move on. That's the only way it's going to happen. But it's got to be, ultimately, I find it's better if it's their idea. So if she ain't come to you in the last month or so being like, hey, so what's going on? Or hey, so-and-so, let's meet. Then I would say, try asking her once and then leave it alone. Hopefully that helps you out. All right. I guess this will be the last question. Coach, what's your take on the red pill community? Are they right or overrated? Oh, so I went through a whole red pill phase. Like that. Go back to the story when I was 21. I had all these ideals about how women were and what they should fall for and what they should like and why they don't like these things, even though they should, blah, 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 blah. And so when I first started learning all the things about why it is that all the things that I was doing was actually chasing women away and what they actually wanted, I was livid. And I think they actually have a name for it now. It's called red pill rage. When you suddenly, like, it's like you have all these blinders on the whole time you're trying to date. And then all of a sudden somebody just comes along and says, hey, this is how things actually are. And it's literally like Neo in the Matrix when he wakes up and all of a sudden it's like, oh, shoot, like I'm not in the human world. I mean, like, what are these robots doing here? Holy crap. And so I went through a phase where I was extremely mad at women because I was like, why do they think this way? They shouldn't be that way. Why do they do this and that? Kind of find out I was more mad that those girls weren't doing that stuff to me because I hadn't figured it out, But I say this, okay? I don't ever think that anything is inherently like completely bad or completely good, I think it all depends on the person that's taking in the information and how they're using it. So for example, I have been through the red pill rage and I've had my eyes open to how dating works, right? All I cared about was like, so now that I know how dating works, so I can get women now, right? Like, so I know things I got to do, but there are some people that'll be like, for example, right? One of the things that I learned early on when I was following Doc Love stuff, he would say, hey, go on a date with a woman and then wait 5 to 9 days to hit them up for another date. And at the time, I could not fathom how that would work because I'm sure like a lot of you, if you're a logical thinker, you're thinking, but wait, if I don't talk to her for 5 to 9 days, isn't she going to think that I don't like her? And then why would she wait that long to hear from me? Wouldn't she find that disrespectful? And so I ended up cutting my version down to like wait a minimum of 4 days. But there have been times where I've waited 5 to 9 days to hit a woman up for another date. And they said yes. And I started realizing if I started analyzing, there were times where I would go on a date with a woman and then hit her up the next day for another date, or try to plan a date on the same date that I'm already on. And those women lost interest in me very quickly. And I couldn't make the correlation because here's the thing. My logical brain is now trying to fight what's emotionally happening to them, because the logic side says, if you want me to show that I like you, then I should be hitting you up all the time. But the outcome of that was that women were heading for the hills. So then, despite what my analytical, logical brain was saying, which is keep doing that, I had to look at the evidence and say, let's try something different. So I'm going to try this thing over here where I don't hit them up right away after a date. And it's going to be 4 days of nerve-wrackingness, waiting to see what's going to happen. And I did it. And I would wait 4 to 5 or 6 days. And then I hit them up, and I was able to start getting more dates. So what I realized was there was positives to the red pill philosophy, in that if you're using it wisely, you'll take the parts that say, hey, women actually function this way, and here's why. Here's the emotional reason that they like this thing that you said over here versus this thing. This is how the process works for them, and you can use it to your good. Or you could see the red pill and be like, wait, women want this stuff? Oh, women shouldn't be this way. I'm mad. And that's not any better than what women do to us when they're like, why do men think this way? Or why do they feel this way? Or why aren't they as emotional? Oh, the way that they think and do things is just so stupid to us. Do we like hearing that? Do we want to date a woman that lives in that space? I have yet to date. That's not true. There have been a couple women I dated that identified as feminists, and those women were hard as heck to date because everything that came on the news, they wanted to be like, oh, that's so disgusting. How can you say it? Any kind of rap song came on. Oh, they're calling these girls B words and blah, 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 blah. It's just very annoying. So now look at you being a red pillar and being like, yeah, these gold diggers out here are so blah, blah, blah. And oh, you women are just so freaking crazy. It's like, no, you just take the red pill and say, they think differently. They react to things differently. Different is not bad. It just means that there's a different process. And it's much like, it's the same thing too if I go over to Mexico and get mad at everybody speaking Spanish. Or I could just learn some Spanish so I could get around a little bit easier. And so I think that the red pill is good in a sense that it does actually teach men, hey, women are different and here's how. You try to be a nice guy doesn't work and here's why. But you ain't got to be an a-hole either. You just have to learn what parts of the bad guy work to be the good guy that uses them. You know, you could do that route, or you can do the route that gets mad. What I don't like is the constant rhetoric online, because like, let's be real, like talking down on women and saying that they're all crazy and that they're all bad bees that can't get a man of this and that. Like those channels are very popular and they blow up and they get a lot of views. Channels that are trying to be like, no, women are like relatively sane if you know how to get them. They don't always get the most amount of views. I don't personally care. I just care about, am I reaching the right people that want to go to my site and learn more based on the positivity and viewpoint that I have? Because here's the thing, I can't be a negative guy and then be like, but go get women. Like, I don't believe men can live in a space where they think so negatively about women and then have success with women. Like, because those two things don't gel together. You can't have two opposing thoughts in your head. You can't be like, oh, women suck, and then go on a date and try to be positive. They're going to feel on some level that you have a beef with women, and they're going to just instinctively know, this guy's kind of off. I'm out of here. Oh, see, I knew it. Women are blah, blah, blah. If you do that, you're going to be stuck in the land of not getting any women, and you're going to keep proving yourself right versus just saying, again, they think differently. Hey, I've been teaching this for 20 years now. There are still times where like women will like say some passive stuff, and I'm like, they could have just said it directly. But I understand that's not how they communicate. I have to know as a guy what they mean when they say this thing, and I've learned the language enough to know that I can do that, all right? So don't think just because I know all this stuff that it's not frustrating at times, but it doesn't make me mad at them. It just makes me understand they're cute. They're still thinking they got to talk passively, but I know exactly what they mean. That's so cute. Like, it's fine, you know? So don't live in the negative space of the red pill. If you're going to be a red pillar, use the red pill to have your eyes open to what's actually going on with women and their attraction levels, and then proceed accordingly with the new knowledge you have. I think the other hard part for guys is that when we learn this stuff, our ego is so invested heavily in how we are and the things that we thought were right to get women that we're not aware that those habits become who we are. And it's very hard to look at yourself and say, hey, all those habits that you learned for all these years to get women, they don't work. So learn some new stuff. Because now you're starting at ground zero. Where do you start? you got lied to for X amount of years. How do you know if this person's here to write what listen to, or this person, or whatever? It's a very confusing thing to have to start at ground zero and try to figure out these new habits that you hope are not going to work, even though you already had habits, but they weren't working, but they made you feel good. That's all very frustrating. So again, I understand because I've been through the red pill rage. But on the other side of that is more understanding and recognizing that, hey, I can actually get women now that I know how they function. So that's my overall view of that. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got, guys. Been talking for a long time. So this is the album. This is my album called here. Sorry, wrong camera. This is my album. It's called Kevin Samuels is Right. It is now on iTunes, Spotify, all that good stuff. So you guys can definitely check that out. And so to that end, I will leave you with a video from that album, and be sure to stream it on wherever you get your streaming stuff. It's pretty fun to listen to. Thank you guys for watching the show. Be sure to leave comments in my videos. So I'll have stuff to talk about during the course of next show on Tuesday. I do a show every Tuesday at 5 p.m. and Saturdays. I guess I announce them at some point because I don't know. I keep changing the time on Saturdays. But I will see you guys on Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Check out the video. I'm out. Peace.
Where are you going? No, Lulu. Don't pee on the carpet. Lulu.
You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog. You about to buy a dog and die alone. There you go, crying you're alone. Your girlfriend on the phone. Dressing like a thought, clubbing every night, cause the party never stops. Oh, flirting with a man, take a fella home for a one-night stand. Oh, wake up in the bed, fella just left, now you're all alone again. I got a question, how many solo birthdays without having a mate is it going to take before you change your ways? How many more times are you going to fake that your life is great without someone by your side willing to ride, do or die? But all you think about is I want this, I want that, dude with a six-pack, six-figure stack, paying my bills and all that. But you 45 plus, acting like you 25, plus you still up in the club, smoking every night. 3 bad kids at home, 4 lame baby daddies, cause you couldn't quite remember who the third kid belonged to. You got the nerve to turn down a brother who had taken all your kids cause he's 5'6", then turn around and scream out to the world, I can't find a good man. So now I understand why you got to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You got to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You got to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog. You about to buy a dog and die alone.
Can't nobody tell me what I can or can't post up on my own social media. If I want to shake my can for the gram, then who are you to tell me I can't?
There you go, posting up a thirst trap. Them high value men, they don't like that. You say I can do what I wanna do. I say you should go to the kennel boo. You say you want a high value man in your life, but you don't have the things that he needs in a wife. All this boss chick, independent chick attitude with this minute ish, and you not staying fit like, hey Big Shirley, you so burly, mad at the world cause they did you dirty. Won't change up cause you over 30. Act like a man, never been that girly. Yeah, always gotta come back of attack when you get called out for the way you act. Thought you got to get some licks from a pit bull. Pitiful, Kevin Samuels gave the manual, but you couldn't believe this is what a man would need. So you called him a sexist? Girl, you need a therapist. You won't date nice guy Brad, but you give it up to Chad? He ain't even got no pad. Spend your energy on bums who leave you in the dust. No wonder you think all men suck, but keep on playing. But that wall's getting close. Pretty soon you'll be a ghost to the dude you want the most, but you won't date down till it's too late. That 5'6" guy is looking pretty fly, but you passed him by, and now he's got a wife who is 6'1". They be having lots of fun. Meanwhile, you go into the pet shop for some little bow wows that'll love you till your heart stops. Call them Lulu and Sunny, but they only live so long. When they die, you gon' still be alone. When they die, you gon' still be alone. When they die, you gon' still be alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog. You about to buy a dog and die alone. Should've changed your ways, but you won't. Waited too long and now you're up-oh. Kevin, he was right, now you're up-oh. You gon' buy a dog and die alone. You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class.